ASISC Regional Debate Competition 2021, where senior students from classes 11 and 12 will engage in a battle of wits. We are extremely privileged and honored to host the prestigious ASISC debate for West Bengal chapter and Northeast states under the aegis of Father George Hess Memorial Literary Competitions. And we are looking forward to an intense and lively session. May I now invite our principal, Mr. John Bagul, to address the audience.
Good morning, everyone. To our three judges who've joined us from far and close, I warmly welcome all of you. To all the participants from 24 schools who are eager to start on with the debate, and to all the heads, teachers, members of the ASISC, everyone who is logging in and looking forward to an exciting debate on a very, very relevant topic. I would like to quote from, can everyone mute themselves, please? Can we have everyone muting themselves? Participants, please mute yourselves. I would like to begin with a quote by no other than Sir Ken Robinson, who says, education and training are the keys of the future. A key can be turned in two directions. Turn it one way, you lock resources. Turn it the other way, you release resources and give people back to themselves. I purposely want this quote because it's very relevant to our topic of today and to the debate, as all the participants are turning the key the right way to unlock their creativity. So let's look forward to a very interesting debate. I'm sure the judges are going to have a tough time. Thank you all for joining in. All the best to our participants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your words of encouragement and motivation. Our moderator for today is Mrs. Malavika S. Poddar. She is the head of the English department and a senior English teacher at South City International School. Ma'am, may I now request you to take over for further proceedings. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Amrita. I hope I'm audible to everyone. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all present here today. Principal Mr. John Bagul, distinguished panel of judges, students, participants, teachers, colleagues, and all our viewers. During a crisis like the COVID-19 pandemic, strengthening communication, developing oratorical skills, and cognitive and social stimulation in students is considered to be of prime importance. And that is precisely we at South City International School have come forward time and again to encourage, foster, and nurture articulateness, eloquence, coherence, persuasiveness. As you are well aware, the participants of today's debate competition were given the topic at 8:45 a.m. and here they are before us, brave warriors, ready to battle it out through spirited sparring of wits and words. The topic for the ASISC Regional Debate Prelims Pool A senior category, that is for class 11 and 12, is online schooling is the way of the future. However, before we begin, let me first take all the participants of the 24 schools through the rules and regulations. It is a request. Please listen to them carefully. Participants should avoid reading from a previously prepared script, paper, or aid. Participants will need to keep the video on constantly while speaking. Each speaker will get 3 minutes to speak. At the end of the second minute, a warning bell will be rung. The final bell will be sounded at the end of the third minute. Timing commences as soon as the participant starts speaking. Speaking for less than 2 minutes and more than 3 minutes will entail a deduction of 5 marks by each judge. This is specially for the judges. All participants must be in formal wear without any identification marks. The speakers will address the chair only, that is me. Any kind of unparliamentary language, personal comments, or observations on any religion, caste, community, political party, or individual is strictly not allowed. The matter should be limited only to the topic. Such violations may lead to disqualification. Marks awarded by individual judges will be added up for each speaker. You can see it in front of you. Speakers will be adjudged on the following criteria: delivery content, delivery, which includes style, fluency, clarity, and poise, overall impact or presentation. So the total is 50 marks. Now we have with us a panel of eminent and esteemed judges, and I would like to introduce them to you. Our first judge of the day is Dr. Mrs. Rita Chatterjee. Ma'am is the director of North Point Senior Secondary Boarding School and former principal and administrator of APJ Schools. She is an academic with a huge body of experience, plethora of exposure, and an abundance of ideas in the field of learning and exchange of knowledge. We welcome you, ma'am. We are delighted and proud to have you amidst us. Our second judge today is Mrs. Uma Mohandas Poduwal. She is the principal of Work Hard Global School, Aurangabad, and heads the CBSE section with 35 years experience in the field of education. Her inspiration for teaching as a passion and career came from her own teachers in the various schools she studied in India. She rightly believes, together we may give our children roots to grow and wings to fly. Welcome, ma'am. It is an honor to have you with us. Our third judge for today is Miss Debalina Mitra. She is a senior English teacher in Baliganj Shikha Shadun School with a work experience of more than 20 years. She has worked with the Syllabus Committee of West Bengal Board of Secondary Education. She was the board examiner since 2010, and she had been nominated by her school for the Best Teacher Award and felicitated by IIHM in 2020. We welcome you, ma'am. It is a pleasure to have you with us. Last but not the least in the series of introduction is our timekeeper for today, Miss Akshita Paul Chaudhary, Senior Physics and Computer Teacher of South City International School. Ma'am, may I request you to please sound the buzzer for the warning bell and the final bell for the benefit of our debaters.
Audio Jungle.
That's a warning bell.
Audio Jungle.
Final bell. Now, without further ado, let us begin with the ASISC Regional Debate Competition Preliminary Round Senior Category Pool A for classes 11 and 12. The first team, we do not have any names of schools. We will only address you as team 1, 2, and so forth. Team 1, speaking for the motion, Abhipsha Das. Abhipsha, are you there?
Yes, teacher.
You can begin.
Abhipsha, you need to put your camera on, please.
Abhipsha,
Yes, teacher. Teacher, may you see me?
yes, we can see you. You are perfectly visible and audible. Please begin.
Teacher, may I start?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You can't teach people what they need to know everything. But what you can do, the best thing is to do, you can position them what they need to know, when they need to know, and what they can see it. Said by Samir report. Good morning to one and all. Good morning to all my jurors present over here and my fellow worthy opponents and debate competitors. Today, I, Abib Shadas of class 11, belonging from team number 1, I'm speaking in favor of the motion. So today our debate topic is online schooling is the way of the future. So as I'm speaking for the motion, so it is obvious that I will give, so it is obvious that I will support the statement. It is obvious that I will support this statement without any hesitation, and there are some strong reasons behind it. With the development of technology and scientific revolutionaries and discoveries, it has been very facilitated to us that all the technologies have come to our hand without any difficulty. As the modern age is the age of science, so there is a need to develop the educational sphere as well as the educational field as well. When, as the COVID-19 situation has wreaked a havoc all over the world in all the cities, it has made us possible to use certain kind of new emergent popular system, and which is the online educational system. The online educational system is a dominating idol to us. It's like a god that gives life to the boats, to all the mariners. So today, an invisible enemy in this situation, an invisible enemy, a silent killer, that is COVID 19, has battered the backbone of civilization. This COVID 19 virus has unleashed unforeseen sufferings and hazards among human beings almost all over the world. But among all these things, educational sector is the worst hit. But now let us draw a first line of distinction between this offline educational system and online educational system, which is a new popular emergent system. So before starting this, this reduces the distance communication. It improves the learning and vocabulary skills. We are very much a great way to the paving the imposition of lockdown. We have got this online education, and also and for the physical disabilities there is a great facility. All this we need is the distance speed with the continuous network system, and also it also improves our vocabulary. We can learn beyond it, and under this, and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other Ministry of Culture and Education has provided many security facilities like PM Vidya, which provides all the platform to all the educational sector among all the countries. Now online education is the way of future, has already become, it has a probability of 60% to become the future of youngsters and the youths. Before concluding my speech, I want to tell that online education has paved a great way to this new generation and new era. Thank you and have a nice day.
You have spoken 14 seconds extra. The judges, please note. Thank you, Abhipsha. Well said. The next speaker speaking against the motion is Rahul Tiwari, Team A.
So can you see me?
Yes.
May I begin?
Yes, please do.
Good morning, my respected teachers and respected jury members and also the competitors present out here. I am Rahul Tiwari of Team 1 and I'm here to speak against the motion that online schooling is the way to the future. Surely, online education comes with major advantages, but the disadvantages that it poses are very difficult to ignore. When we talk about schooling as a whole, we count each stage from the lowest level of schooling to the highest levels. Now, the most important and the most major disadvantage is the non-availability of any digital platform, like for example, mobile phones, laptops, tabs, or PCs. And the second most important thing is the availability of internet connection. Now, a report says that only the students in India, there are 50% who have not the stable internet connections at homes. Now, that is a pretty big number when it comes to India. Talking about digital platforms, there are many cases where where people have seen that the devices that they use are shared. For example, if we take a father who goes out for work, has two children who are doing their online classes and studies with their mother's mobile. Now, two of them with the same mobile, surely not from the same class. So this is not the best they could have got. The best that they could have gotten is through on offline education, when the teacher could have seen and acted upon them personally. So online education here has a major setback. Even if we keep these boulders aside, there are many side topics to be noted. For example, if we talk about technical difficulties and the screen time, obviously the screen time for juniors, the most important thing is the teachers are not able to pay personal attention to the students. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that offline education is superior among the two. The education system cannot shift immediately and without any preparation. As we have seen, rather to focus on the shifting to online education, we can strengthen the offline education and make it better for the future of the country and as the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul Tiwari. Our next team two, the speaker who is going to speak for the motion is Ohana Roy. Ohana, please begin.
Yes, ma'am, am I visible and audible properly?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, ma'am, may I
Ohana.
start?
Please do.
Okay. Change is the way of life. So is the way of schooling. With the demand of time, we have changed from the open air schooling to classroom confined schooling. And now the time has come. We will again move out to enjoy the enormous freedom of the virtual world. With this, a very good morning to one and all present over here. And I strongly believe that online schooling is the way of future. Online schooling has already proved that knowledge and education is nobody's monopoly. No force can restrict the enormous want of learning. In this devastating pandemic, when income shattered, transport suffered a grinding halt. The wheel of education rolled on, thanks to online classes. Very often, it is said that there is a strict cost barrier. But have we ever thought the terrible adverse situation of the developing nation? Creating the offline schooling infrastructure for all is still a distant dream for many. But with the limited resource allocation, the virtual education can be percolated to every nook and corner. The terrible distraction of the infamous public transport can have little influence in this online mode of learning. Students can enjoy the comfort of home and access the flavor of learning. The time and money so saved can be better utilized for more productive. In the online schooling, everything is documented and student can learn on his own pace with the most democratic way of learning. Online classes open the door for a student sitting in a small town like that to access the knowledge of a teacher from distant Benares University. School and classroom has created many masterpieces with the interaction of the student and teachers. But all these masterpieces are created and lost in the classroom only. If there is a virtual system, the treasures so created in the classes of Sir S.N. Bose in the Presidency University or Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose can still be available for mankind, but we have missed it. But in this virtual setup, all those treasures so created in the classroom will be available for our future generation. With this, I rest my case here. Thank you.
Thank you. You've exceeded 10 seconds, Ahuna. Thank you, Ahuna. Our next speaker will be speaking against the topic is Meghna Shah. Team 2, Meghna Shah.
Ma'am, will I start?
Yes, please do.
A Malit study of June 2020 shows that only 2.5% of students think that online learning provides the same quality of education as offline. While the introduction of online technology to education is remarkable, the advent of online learning in its current form, that is, classes being held on Zoom, lectures being pre recorded and uploaded ahead of time, and no face to face interaction, is definitely not the way of the future.
Meghna,
saying
camera.
this-
Camera is on. Meghna, your camera.
Ahuna, Meghna
Meghna,
Shah.
your camera is not on. Sorry to disturb, but camera is not on.
Miss, it is saying that host has stopped the camera.
No, okay. We will give you time. You restart it, Meghna.
Ma'am, it is showing that you cannot start your video because host has stopped it.
Wait. Malvika, please look into it because the camera has to be on. We'll restart. Let her restart, but camera should be on. Yeah, Meghna, your camera is on now. Meghna, you will start again.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Meghna.
Yes.
Okay, I will
Now,
start
now
again.
it's on. You're visible and audible. Yes,
ma'am.
Meghna.
A Malit study from June 2020 shows that 2.5% of students think that online learning provides the same quality of education as offline. While the introduction of online technology to education is remarkable, the advent of online learning in its current form, that is, classes being held on Zoom, lectures being pre recorded and uploaded ahead of time, and no face to face interaction, is definitely not the way of the future. By saying this, a very good morning to the respected chairperson, my worthy opponents, and my dear friends. Today, this house believes that online learning is the way of the future, and I'm against the motion. It is true that online learning has a certain appeal. Sitting at home in your comfort zone, maybe even sipping some coffee whilst attending the class. This may have been an initial reaction when the pandemic of COVID-19 first struck in 2020, but soon we came to know about the cons of online learning. The risk of distraction from improper work environments at home is one of many barriers. Of course, distraction also exists in traditional classes, but the overall school environment is still designed to allow for learning. Many students do not have reserved distraction-free space for learning at home. This is further complicated by loud siblings, roommates, pets, neighbors, and children. Another important point to note is that students generally lack the motivation to attend these classes. In the setting of an online learning environment, there are few external factors which push the students to perform well. In many cases, the students are left to fend for themselves during their learning activities without anyone constantly urging them on towards their learning goals. The e-learning method currently practiced in education tend to make participating students undergo contemplation, remoteness, and lack of interaction. As a result, many of the students face signs of social isolation due to the lack of human communication in their lives. This can ultimately cause several mental health problems, heightened anxiety, and negative thoughts, as is prevalent these days. On a larger scale, e-learning may be a practical solution for many, but it is still true that our socio-economic structure does not provide the facilities for online learning for many who are below the poverty line, and even those who are above it. Do they not deserve the right to education like the folk in the city who have access to a lot of technology? When the classes were offline, at least students from all sections of the society could have access to the curriculum of education. But now, education is just a far-fetched dream for them. The problem is that a large portion of e-learning training providers choose to focus largely on theoretical knowledge rather than practical skills. The reason for this is evident. Theoretical knowledge are easier to implement in online learning curriculum than offer that practical knowledge. The students who are affected by this most are the science students who require hands-on practical sessions, but only end up with theoretical knowledge. In my conclusion, I would like to say that every school is a student's second home. At least that's what 12 years worth of education has been trying to teach us. So can we really replace our second home with a computer screen? Thank you.
Thank you, Meghna. You have exceeded by 16 seconds but well spoken. Now we come to team 3. Speaking for the motion, Anjali Ladha. Anjali Ladha. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Anjali, you can start speaking. You are absolutely visible and audible.
Correct. So, how many of us sitting here have not been on our school campuses for the past few months? All of us. Being a class 12 student myself, I have just accepted the fact that I will probably not go back to my school campus properly, and my Google Classroom has become the idea of school now. As sad as that sounds, it's the reality. Good morning, everyone. Today's motion reads, online schooling is the way of the future, and I, Anjali Ladha, stand strongly for the motion. With COVID-19 hitting so hard, online schooling has become the new normal, just like many other things. Most of us have looked at this system in a very negative manner, especially as students. But let's look at the positive side of the spectrum. People say this is a temporary situation, but let us remember that this has been a change in lifestyle, and there is no looking back, but only forward. The traditional system of schooling makes all students learn in the same manner with the same method. We all know how each individual has a different learning pattern and pace. Online education enables students to have access to more learning material, which is customizable, and self-learning becomes essential, which is a life skill. What this has done is make the learning process more and more flexible, and every student learns according to their own time. Secondly, the accessibility to the virtual classroom is available anywhere there's an internet connection. And a good way to take advantage of this situation is to travel the world, take up opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise. This means that there is no need to commute from one place to another or follow a very rigid schedule. On top of that, not only do you save time, but you also save money, which can be spent on other priorities. Earlier, students could not have access to internships and work outside the classroom easily. What these opportunities does is make students stand out and prepare them.
Jungle.
The online method enables students to have access to these internships, network with people outside of their circle across the globe, making schooling as a whole a lot more fun. Lastly, in a world that is becoming more and more globalized day by day, every student must have access to more, decide according to their needs what they want to study, and have their own goals. And there is no looking back, since the present will have an impact on the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. The next speaker speaking against the topic is Anushka Roy Chaudhary. Team 3 speaking against the topic, Anushka
morning,
Roy
ma'am.
Chaudhary.
Ma'am, can you see me? Am I visible? Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely visible
Thank you
and
so much.
audible. Please begin.
May I begin? All right.
Please.
Theorized by Aristotle, the man is a social animal as he cannot sustain alone. In fact, no man can break the shackles of mutual interdependence. The Zoom screen, which facilitates online education, promises to mirror human interaction in society, but as time has progressed, this facade has been absolutely lifted. Good morning, everyone. I am Anushka Roy Chaudhary of Team 3, and I am against the motion that online schooling is the way of the future. Online schooling is a makeshift method of schooling which has been opted for due to the pandemic, a situation of medical emergency. I emphasize on the term makeshift as it symbolizes the temporary character of this arrangement. This virtual mode of schooling is solely dependent on the internet and electronic devices, as well as the notion of screen time. Screen time is detrimental to the youth as it leads to brain and eyesight damage. Now, the Article 15 of the Indian Constitution abolishes discrimination, but it is ironical to see that schools in remote rural areas do not possess adequate equipment to facilitate online training. Now, the burning question is that, do we want a future where there is a discrepancy in the development of sections within society? It is also important to note that most of the character development is done through school at a grassroots level. It builds the foundation of personality in an individual. However, this is not promoted by virtual education. Availability of the internet allows students to discover its alternative use. they compromise on their education by giving it a subordinate standing. Well, it is appalling to see that academia as well as sports have taken a hit as obesity seems to be on the rise. This will produce a generation which does not have the tenacity to endure rigorous mental or physical labor, which is demanded in life. In the future or in the long run, the domestic product of and financial markets of nations will bear the brunt, all due to the insufficiency and inefficiency of the virtual mode of schooling. This unplanned and rapid move to online learning without training, insufficient bandwidth, and very little preparation will result in poor user experiences, which is inconducive to sustained growth. We should urge global leaders to restore normalcy for the purpose of protecting our lineage as well as our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Anushka Roy Chaudhary. Next, we have Team 4 speaking for the motion, Arjun Sinha. Arjun Sinha.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Absolutely visible and audible. Please begin.
2 million years is a pretty long time for any species to stay constant. Thus, over the eons, man has worked himself up, keeping only one thought in mind. Life is good, but it can be better. A very good morning to all my esteemed judges in the panel, the audience, and my fellow participants. I am from Team 4, Arjun Sinha, and I concur with the statement, online schooling is the way of future. Well, but why is it a futuristic idea? We must ask ourselves this question once. Obviously, because it's flexible, it offers a wide selection of programs, it offers a customized learning experience, it's cost-effective and accessible. In this lockdown, the educational field has seen its renaissance. Since universities, schools, and colleges have been closed down, we have to take help from the thing that teachers and parents hate the most, internet and cell phones. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, online schooling, education via online method. First of all, it's cost effective to a great extent. According to statistical analysis, 86 billion US dollars that are annually spent on training of employees, students, and interns. Of that, 29.6 billion US dollars are spent on conveyance. This online method saves this unnecessary expenditure and also the time required in commuting. An average full-time employee can invest only 1% of his or her time in learning, but thanks to the online method, this percentage of duration is increasing gradually. In fact, every student, including me, aspires and dreams of joining a world-class institution for higher learning. Now, this thing's easy because from any corner of India, from any corner of the world, a student can enlighten himself or herself by attending a lecture from Harvard or Oxford by just placing a screen in front of him. Moreover, in the online method, teaching patterns, teaching quality has risen greatly because first, things that were not explainable in physical classes are now just clicks away. A physics teacher can now well explain how a rocket goes up, or a biology teacher can demonstrate very well how the cell divides. These things are have been better with the help of audio-visual learning in the online method. At last, I would like to conclude that due to the commuting time being less, students and trainees can invest more of their time in nurturing their personal skills, and thus online method not only educates them, but motivates them, develops them, and nurtures them in all together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saranya. It is a request to all students to adhere to rules, not to wear the school uniform or to read out from any paper or aid. Our next speaker, Team 5, speaking for the motion, Aryan Das. Aryan Das.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I am Sharonna, ma'am. I have not completed. I have not given.
Sharonna Chattopadhyay. Now we have
Team
just,
4
I'm sorry.
against has not
Yes,
finished.
I'm sorry.
Malvika, Team 4
Yes,
against.
sir. Team 4, we've just finished. Yes, Sharonna Chattopadhyay. Please do. Sorry.
Am I audible and visible?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you. A very good morning to everybody, to all my friends, as well as my respective judges, my elders, and my my respective principals, sir. Today, as we know that the motion is online education, online schooling is the way to the future. But I am very much against this motion, and why I am against this motion, I will say now in my discussion. First, I have some questions with you. My first question is that what will be the way of the kinesthetic learners? They are very much interested, and they are very much they view the gesture and the posture. They are very much habitualized to see the gesture as well as the posture of the teachers, as well as they want to observe that. So what will be the future of them? And my second thing is that and the students who are backbenchers, who are retarded like me, what will be their future? Without the physical touch of the teachers, what will be our future? What will? And secondly, I would like to tell that as we know that online education, upcoming generation will completely rely on the technology. So my question is that will it affect our humanism? I think definitely it will affect our humanism, because according to Aristotle, man is a man among the fellow. So without the process of socialization, is it possible that we are human? A self can only be transformed into the human only when they are followed in the process of socialization. So I think that. And thirdly, what will happen to the students who are studying from the remote areas? What will be their future? And my previous participant, my previous friend, told that it is cost effective. So I have one thing to say, that according to the reports of August 4, 2020, according to the August 4, 2020, it was published in Hindu, I guess the Hindu paper of UN report. It told that as we know that 24 million students all over the school, all over the world has dropped out. All of the world has dropped out due to this pandemic. So I have one thing to say here is that so here I want to say one thing is that it is cost effective. It is cost effective, we know, but one thing that it is cost effective, but for whom? For the city people, but for the people for the students who are living in the remote areas, what will be their future? I think for them it is cost ineffective, and the cost effective is only the frugal midday meal presented by the government. Thank you. And my conclusion is that after all, e-learning is good. E-learning cannot replace the knowledge which is gained by the offline education.
Sharon, you've spoken. Pardon? Sharon, no, you've spoken very confidently, but you have exceeded by 51 seconds. The judges, please note. And my apologies to you, Sharon, no, I did miss out your name, but you spoke very well.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you so much. Team 5, speaking for the motion, Aryan Das.
Yes, ma'am.
You're perfectly visible and audible. Please begin.
Quote, online learning is rapidly becoming one of the world's most cost-effective to educate towards rapidly exceeding workforce. Good afternoon, good morning to my respected judges and one now present here. Today, I, Aryan Das, am here to speak on the topic, online schooling is the way to future. Online learning is one of the fastest growing modes of education, widely accepted, and it has become one of the most popular means of education. Nowadays, it's quite easy and convenient to have online classes instead of offline. With the coming out of this pandemic situation, we can see that online education has rapidly increased in modes of online education. Within these past 2 years, we can see that online education our academic session has only been made possible because of online education. From schools, colleges, and including universities have adopted the modes of online education in order to conduct their academic session. Online schooling enables the teachers and students to set up their learning pace and add flexibility to fulfill everyone's scheduled agenda. Online education is also very efficient as we can study or teach from any part of the world. Online education provides control to students as it provides an infrastructure for students as it's quite efficient, and because of online education, it's possible that it has been possible for us to conduct online classes since past few years. Though we blame online education for causing many issues, it isn't actually the fault of online education. It is our fault, as prior to this pandemic, if we had adopted this online education as a secondary option for online education, then it would have not caused such issues that we are facing in today's world. And we can see that though we blame online education for causing much disturbances like disturbances in online fields and various classes, but it actually isn't. And thereby I would like to conclude by saying that online education is slowly and steadily becoming a way for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Aryan. But I need to point out that you are not supposed to be in your school uniform.
Ma'am, this is not our school uniform.
Okay. This is a formal wear?
Yes, miss.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have Apeksha Sunwar.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking against the motion, Apeksha Sunwar, Team 5.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can I start?
Please.
Imagine you are stuck in your cell phone all day, and on top of that, you have notification distracting you. Good morning to the respected judges. I, Apeksha Sunwar, stand before you to speak against the motion. Online schooling is the way of future. This pandemic situation has made this online education a new normal. And yes, many sectors have been affected, but mostly the education sector. Students have been having a lack of socializing, limited time for the classes, and lack of human value. Yes, these all are the disadvantages, but only the advantages have been given to the upper class. They have been familiar with gadgets, but what about the poor class? Have you ever thought? Our country is an example itself. All the news you can see of people not being able to do their online classes. So furthermore, we have the 2 academic years where there is a decrease in the education field and there are many dropouts. And in the case of Jadavpur University, students have been provided with gadgets, but they are not being able to connect. Remember that no one can control the local internet system. And furthermore, this leads to unemployment, and then that leads to depression, anxiety of not getting employed. Furthermore, we have a survey done by Azim Premji Foundation, in which over 160,000 schools of primary schools have found that 82% lack in mathematics skills and 92% of lack in language skills. And P. Balakrishna, then he quotes that online school has not benefited students. Rather, there should be opening of schools with better planning, unquote. So this has been the new normal and no one is getting benefit from it. Rather, it is changing one's time. Therefore, I conclude by saying that online education has never been the best way, but rather the physical classes are the best and the happiest mode for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Apeksha. Now we have Team 6 speaking for the motion, Debrat Das. Debrat Das.
Ma'am, hello ma'am. Am I audible and visible?
Absolutely. You're perfectly visible and audible, Debrat. Please begin.
Thank you. Good morning to all the respected judges, all my fellow opponents, and to all the audiences present today in the motion. Today, I'm going to speak for the motion raised on the floor of the House, whether online schooling is the way of the future. With the onset of the pandemic, when all the people have got locked under the houses and there's no way of socialization, the world has come openly on the digital platform. It has been a way of nature to adapt and then survive. And now it is our time to adapt and evolve to make stand with this and survive the situation. To its effect, when the students are trapped under the roof of the houses, the online schooling has been the only source of the education in the today's world. The students have now access to open forums, and the schools and the different kinds of the classes are being conducted on the Zoom meetings or Cisco WebEx or different types of other meeting platforms. The students have very much flexibility in their daily routines, as they can easily access to different kinds of recorded video lectures according to their own timings and the different kinds of the situation in which they fall. We are living in a world where everyone has a smartphone, and the open internet network has become a daily commodity in our lives. From the past year, we have seen the rise of several kind of internet online education platforms, such as Unacademy, Byju's, and PhysicsWala, where they cater to the tastes of different kinds of students, and they also hold classes for different stratas of the society, for different age groups. They provide courses based on the different kinds of the online education levels, and hence at the lowest cost. It is much more cost effective, and hence helps in saving a lot of time between the traveling. Also, they provide a wide array of different kinds of courses. Also on the YouTube, we have different series of video lectures, not only just for the toddlers, but also ranging up to the PhD level. But the students can learn important aspects about the virtual world, and they can also learn about the computer digitalization and the various skills which are required in the digital world. So in this world where the rapidly evolving technology has taken up its space, we also need to keep pace with it. Thus, the online education which we are seeing now is only the prototype. It has much more to evolve. But yes, this is the way of the future, and we have to accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Debrat. Team 6, speaking against the motion, Varun Vora. Varun Vora.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Absolutely. Please begin.
Good morning to one and all present here. My name is Varun Vora, and I will be going to speak against the motion. It is often said that a crisis should never be wasted, and tech utopians have wasted no time in claiming that online education is the way to go for the future. Online education does away with the whole human factor, and that is not desirable in today's world, where we must imbibe the values of compassion and empathy. The world is already too mechanized, with humans turning into robots too. Online education may be a part of education, but it can never be the way forward. Firstly, we live in India with a high rural population. There is hardly any electricity in those villages, let alone proper and fast connectivity. So if we do move forward and online schooling is the only way possible is to ignore the rural section of the society, which would not be an ideal solution. Also, most of the students are against online schooling to be continued in the future and are hoping that schools reopen as soon as possible. They claim that online schooling is not as efficient as traditional schooling. Students feel that they are not able to clear their doubts properly. They complain they are paying tuition fees for a sort of YouTube video. People like me who have a very low amount of attention span are not able to pay attention in these classes for long periods of time. Furthermore, so many distractions of gaming, shopping, and what not are available on the internet. Staying put in a particular place is also quite detrimental for the health and fitness of an individual. Compared to offline education, where physical education activity was inevitable for students, online classes have no physical activity. Moreover, with children not being able to go out, the lack of fitness in them would lead to high risk of obesity, heart diseases, and many other problems in the future. And as the Honorable Prime Minister once said, that one whose body is fit, his mind is ahead. To conclude, I would like to say that due to the pandemic, we have no option but to stick to online education. Physical classes can never be replaced. Education is not just words or theory, it's also about a lot of other skills and values that can only be taught in classrooms. Hidden curriculum can never manifest itself in online classes. It is what the children learn with interaction with the peers, teachers, and when with each living experience in school. As soon as the pandemic is subdued, we must not waste any more time in bringing the schools back to the way it was, back the way it should be, back the students wanted to traditional schooling. Thank you.
Thank you, Varun Vora, speaking against the motion. And now we have Team 7 speaking for the motion, Hanzala Sharik. Hanzala Sharik. Are you there, Hanzala? Hanzala Sharik, Team 7, speaking for the motion. And we have
Ma'am, can you hear
Faizan
me?
Ahmed. Yes, Hanzala. Are you Hanzala Sharik?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. My
yes.
internet
You're
connection got
perfectly visible and audible.
okay. Ma'am, may I start?
Please begin.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I, Hanzala Sharik of Team 7, is here to speak on the topic online schooling is the way of the future. And I'm going to speak for there was pandemic in 1918, the Spanish flu. That technology was not that advanced in that time, and thus many students were dropped out. Many students were dropped out from schools and colleges, and thus, but now in this pandemic, during the COVID, when the world has restricted and they are locked down in many states, students can easily continue their studies and can pursue their education. In online classes, there's not only the advantage of this one, but there's also an advantage that you can also travel while having classes. Like for example, in December, I had online classes, but then I went to Bangalore to my uncle's house without any difficulty at all. But before that, when I had offline classes, I had to think of this. When I had to get holiday, then I'll go and I couldn't often plan a holiday to my uncle, and this is also an advantage for the online classes. And the online classes also provide a better way of learning, as well as a better way of teaching for teachers as well. And students get to learn something new every day. Even teachers are learning the way and platforms to use, and even universities and uh, big universities are adopting the online teaching classes with using platforms like Moodle and Blackboard and Zoom and Google Classroom, etc., etc. This constantly there's a rise in the teaching format, and the teachers are getting a better way of teaching the students, and the students are getting a better way of understanding as well. The only requirement for online classes is that need to have a stable internet connection. Now, if the students have a stable internet connection, they can connect to the class and join the classes effectively and study effectively. But and it's also cost effective, as the cost for the school tiffin, the cost for the school bus, and everything that has been reduced to only one thing, that is the internet packages. Except for that, nothing is required, and the cost of devices. However, there are students that don't have devices, but still the schools are offering devices to the students who can't for it or who can't afford it. And thus, online schooling is a better way to the future, and I would definitely like to agree with it. And by saying that, according to a Babson survey research, almost over 30% of the higher secondary students of using online education to get a distance course. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanzala. You exceeded by 16 seconds. Team 7, speaking against the motion, is Faizan Ahmed.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I visible to you?
Absolutely. Please begin, Faizan.
A very good morning to all of the judges and my fellow speakers. I hope all of you are fit and fine in health. I am Faizan Ahmed and I'm going to speak against the given topic. Online schooling is the future. I'm entirely against it. I don't think online education is the way to the future. There are many harmful effects to it. Firstly, students have less direct contact with the teachers. The online classes, in the online classes, many teachers are just facing the students in a camera. But in real classes, in physical classes, teachers tend to have a lot of impact on students just sitting there on the other side of the class. The students tend to ask more questions to the teachers. They tend to clear more their doubts. But due to this online classes, most of students are just sitting in the front of a screen, watching their teachers talk about a following topic, but they don't follow through. Most of students like me, they don't follow through the topic. Thus, they tend to have a negative attitude towards online classes. When those unclearing doubts, those not able to understand, these are the disadvantages of online classes. They tend to have a negative impact on a child's health. The negative attitude we as a student have on online classes is very much is indulging, enable us to indulge in other activities mobile phone during the online class. Even some of us have the habit to just log into a meeting and then go to sleep. Yes, and it is possible not only due to the classes but due to the behavior. It also leads to an social. It also leads to less social interaction, leads to a leads to a mental instability of this student. If you let it interact with your friends physically by sitting beside them, you are more stable, mentally stable than the ones you're just sitting in the like this and in a posture and then you're just talking to your friends. No, it doesn't happen like that. You talk to your friends, your social interaction leads to your mental stability. And also, the school teaches us moral education, which can be only provided us through physically. The the extra curricular activities we participate in, these teachings from our teachers, they are not gained by us towards the screen. So I just like to conclude by saying that if someone says to you that online class is a boon, tell them no, it's a bane to us, and we are thankful to restore to physical traditional classes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Faizan. You exceeded by 25 seconds. Our next team is Team 8. Speaking for the motion, Harsh Kumar Agarwal. Harsh Kumar
Hello, ma'am.
Agarwal.
Ma'am, am I perfectly audible as well as
Yes,
visible?
and visible. Yes, please start.
Sure, ma'am. Nothing has more strength than necessity. Euripides said that. And I quite agree. When was the last time you could have spotted me crazily smiling amidst my friends, sitting at those benches with high spirits? I'll help you. It was mid-March of 2020. My annual examinations had just concluded. The message of a day curfew flashed on my news screen, quickly followed by the 21-day restriction notification. What I guessed to be just a one-time thing turned out to be a never-ending one. More than 500 days have passed. Waves have come and went. Several rounds of restrictions were imposed and lifted up. But one sector that is still unmoved is the education sector, the one to which I, you, and the entire audience here is a part of. Often do I hear the phrase, this is the new normal. This is the new normal we need to adapt to. But I sit intrigued and ponder. Is the new normal actually that bad or not worth replacing? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Harsh Kumar Agarwal, and by now you must have clearly understood that I'm speaking for the proposition today for the motion in house. Online schooling is the way of future. Keeping aside all the preset and already mentioned points by my fellow proposition members, I will try to establish my point of view from a very nominal perspective. As the motion clearly asks us to consider online schooling as a way of the future, as a mode of education, and not compare it with offline education. The online learning system, with its plethora of options and resources, can be personalized in many ways. It is the best way to create a perfect learning environment suited to the needs of each and every student. Definitely, it's flexible. It gives us the accessibility of time, it gives us the accessibility of place by eliminating all geographical boundaries and making the process of education more student centered and more focused on active learning. And it helps the candidate assume self-responsibility towards the completion of the course. It is more convenient. Other than certain due dates, we all understand deadlines. We make our own schedule of completing the requirements of the course. It connects us to a global village. I think all of us would agree that while researching for this motion, we all have opened websites. While opening websites, we all must have clearly understood that all of them are not from our country. It's from everywhere. So that's a global village. A major advantage of online schooling that it eliminates the concept of first bench, last bench. It makes a paperless society as it makes it hassle free. We are not dependent on paper anymore. And finally, let's face it, let's embrace it. Had online schooling and online education not being emphasized or used properly, we all could not even have virtually assembled here. On that note, let me quote Karl Marx. Necessity is blind until it becomes conscious. The pandemic unfolded how dependable it is not at all suitable, but also made us realize that it is not at all practical to stay dependent on one mode of learning, offline classrooms, and that online schooling is truly a way of the future that is not just flexible, it is tangible, convenient, and moreover, equalizing. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you, Harsh Kumar Agarwal. Team 8 speaking against the motion will be Devayud Chanda.
Ma'am, am I visible?
Devayud Chanda. Yes, you're perfectly audible and visible. Please begin.
Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. But after this global pandemic struck us, unfortunately, one of the sectors which has been affected the most is the education sector. And time and again, we understood that while online education may be a temporary substitute, but it can never replace offline schooling. On that note, good morning, one and all present here. This is Devay Chanda, and I guess it's pretty clear by now that I'm speaking against the proposition. Now, without further dragging the already mentioned points, I will quickly jump into my next points. There are several applications that were required, that were the first requirement for online education, were often accused for leakage of data in the dark web. In simpler terms, when you're trying to acquire knowledge from your teachers, there is a cyber criminal who is extracting your digital data from your devices. But even if we keep that aside, we all know for a fact that a stable internet connection is required for all online meetings and online classes. And that brings me to my next point. One thing that has been unanimously experienced by all the nations across the globe during this pandemic is an economic setback. And with a developing country like India, the setbacks were sky high. While proper peer established men lost their jobs, it's better not to speak about the delegators. Half of 2020, the only news that flashed on my screen were delegators walking from places to places on their feet. While these people lacked basic income to feed their families, is it really possible for them to equip their children with the proper devices and proper data connection to continue their education process? On the other hand, I believe that online education also fuels diminished social interaction. When a teacher teaches us, it is not only confined to our books. The teachers provide us with their teachings, inculcate in us their expectations and their experiences they have been gaining throughout their life. And all the students present in a traditional classroom experience the warmth of the fire named hope led by our teachers. And with that warmth, we go on to become successful professionals in the later half of our lives. To conclude, I would use a quote of John Dewey. Sir John Dewey once said that education is life itself. And I believe that he is absolutely correct about this. But I would like to add something to it. While I believe that education is life itself, I also firmly believe that offline schooling is the heart pumping to keep this life form alive. And with that, I will rest my case, but not my stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Debayut. Next, we have Team 9 speaking for the motion, Kalyan Singha. Team 9 speaking for the motion, Kalyan Singha. Kalyan?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you're perfectly visible and audible. Please begin.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Gracious morning, Honorable Chairperson, panel of esteemed judges, and all the members of this House. The motion of the House is that online education or schooling is the way of the future, and I certainly stand for the motion. Call school to the stand and accuse him of being or killing creativity, individuality, and being intellectually abusive. He is an ancient institution that has outlived his age. Transformation is inevitable and change is the only constant. So, Honorable Chairperson, I conclude my opening statement, and if I may, with the opening of my case, justify the statement. Now, imagine here's a phone which I presume most of us are using at the moment, and a phone of 150 years ago. A big difference, right? Now presume a car of today's generation and a car 150 years ago. Again, a big difference. Well, get this. A school or a classroom of today and a classroom of 150 years ago. Now ain't that a shame? In almost over a century, there's no major change in the classroom or in the pattern of schooling. We claim to have been teaching our students for the future, but with evidences like this, I certainly raise the question that are we preparing them for the future or the past? In this pandemic, if there's one certain positive consequence that we got to take, is that it marks the beginning of revolution. It marks the beginning of change, of shift in the pattern in the form of education from its contemporary form to the demand or the need of this generation, that is the online platform. Well, the modern, or rather the present schooling system demands for digital fluency and digital literacy, which the old school certainly fails to provide. If I were to certainly justify the statement by stating the advantages of online education, it would be certainly it provides flexibility as we can schedule our classes as per our convenience. It allows us to schedule our classes in this hectic day schedule that we have as per our conveniences, and also adding to that, it's cost effective. Now, a fellow opponent of mine, Team 4, I guess, had stated that it's cost effective only for the urban people. I mean, the people living in the cities and not for people living in rural areas. Well, to counter to that, my friend, earlier, if a student desired to have access or receive education from top educators of the world or top institutions, he had to pay hefty amount of fees. Lakhs and crores of rupees. But with the availability of online platform, he's just a cell phone and a click away from having access to those top educators. Well, let's get going and adapt ourselves to this online platform. As we keep updating our status, our Insta feed, our Facebook stories, our tweets, so is the need to update our schooling and our mode of education to the online platform. Thank you. Here I rest my case, but certainly not my statement.
Thank you, Kalyan. You've exceeded by 40 seconds. Now we have Team 9 speaking against the motion, Sanskar Soni. Sanskar Soni speaking against the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, Sanskar, absolutely. Please begin.
I fear the day that technology will surpass human interaction and the world will have the generation of idiots. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sanskar Soni. I'm standing against the motion. I believe human beings learn a lot by surrounding themselves with other human beings. Unfortunately, online learning takes away all the physical interaction that student and teacher might have in the school. It is always better for the students to talk or discuss ideas, which is an essential part of learning. The classroom also, I also believe classroom influence the personality of the students. Secondly, I believe that online learning is something which will create the wedge between the rich and the poor ones, as it is not possible for the poor ones to afford it. Third, I believe that online learning create a lot of distraction. Many students take out their devices to learn something, but finally ends up by chatting over social media, sharing pictures, or playing games. To be honest, I have also come across this. That wasted time could have been used for and mean to perform any meaningful tasks. Third, I believe that attending online classes for longer time over can create health issues like headache, ear problem, and so on. It is also harmful for the memory system and also our brain. And finally, I believe that there is no rules. Online learning does not have any rule or guideline that need to be followed. Therefore, a learner has a lot of freedom to do whatever they want without worrying about anything. So in this case, the learner can lose their focus. With this, I rest my case. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sanskar. We move on to our next team, Team 10. Speaking for the motion, Pranjal Singh. Team 10, speaking for the motion, Pranjal Singh. Pranjal, are you there? Pranjal Singh.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are perfectly visible and audible. Please begin.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Good morning to all the respective judges, teachers, and everybody who are present here. This is Pranjal Singh, and I am here to give my opinion on the topic that online schooling is a better way of schooling in the future. In the last 20 years, we have seen that technology has been improving, and it is improved also into the largest from being very non-existent into the largest, most accessible part of database information ever created. Online education is an education which involves the interaction of the students with the teachers, and online schooling is a schooling in which teachers interacts with the students in the most effective way. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. It is the most eminent quote said by Swami Vivekananda. He said, well, because a great gratitude to our father of education, who is Sir Isaac Pitman. He only is the father of education, online education. If he hadn't invented this platform of online education, then you don't have experienced this learning, this best learning experience which we are now doing. You would have just wondered that how we would have conducted our classes in this COVID-19 situation. So it is a great day that he invented this online education. If there hadn't been this online schooling platform, then we would just wonder that how we would have studied and what would have been the condition of the education in the country and in the world also. We would have. It is so amazing to know that we have so many teaching applications such as TeamLink, Google Meet, Zoom, and many more which are available over the internet. These teaching applications help the teachers and the students to continue their academic learning session. It is the lifeline for the students who have obstacles such as who have geographical distances obstacles or who have physical disabilities. They can easily avail this online learning education, online schooling also. It involves collaborations and interactions with the experts and peers throughout the world. Because of the rich experience which we experience in the online schooling, and because of its audio, text, video lectures, customized graphics learning, and many more, at virtual learning ambience, this online education is the most flexible, accessible, and the most inclusive way of learning. There is no hustle and bustle in this learning, in this online schooling, because we need to rush to the school, and it reduces the workload of the teachers, because teachers can do their online checkings. When used to its full extent, at last I would like to say that online education, when used to its full extent and when used to its full potential, it can be even more effective than face-to-face live interaction. It is most engaging, joy, and tailored to almost everyone's schedule. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Pranjal. You've exceeded by 39 seconds. The speaker against the motion is Disha Ghosh, Team 10. Against the motion, Disha Ghosh. Disha Ghosh. Disha, are you there? Disha Ghosh. I think Disha might be facing technical problems. Disha?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but it seems a little hazy. Yes, it's better now. It's better now, Disha.
Yes,
you can begin.
Good morning, my respected panel of judges and my fellow competitors. I am Disha Ghosh. Today our topic is online schooling is the way of the future, and I will begin by saying that I am speaking against this motion. First of all, I will say online schooling has set many setbacks in the way of learning. In online schooling, students and teachers cannot interact with each other physically. Students feel isolated and adrift. Many students as well as teachers face technological issues, and many students who live in remote areas, they cannot afford data package also. Classroom activities, lab-based activities, counter-arguments among students, all these activities are missing. Students cannot interact with their friends. They couldn't share their feelings with the friends and their peers. Social interactions, it limits social interactions also. Cheating becomes easier for some students because some students take up this dishonest means of cheating. The practical knowledge is restricted, and students are in mental instability because there are no sports, no physical fitness. That means physical fitness is not up to the mark. So I will conclude by saying that being present physically in front of the teachers is immense.
Thank you, Disha. Thank you, Disha. The next team speaking for the motion will be Team 11. The speaker is Oishi Roy. Team 11, Oishi Roy.
Ma'am, am I perfectly visible and audible?
Oishi, I cannot see you. Oishi Roy. Yes.
Am I visible now? I hope it's
yes,
okay.
Oishi. Before you begin, I would just like to say that Disha Ghosh has exceeded the time by 20, has spoken less than 20 seconds less. I would like to mention for the judges that Disha Ghosh has spoken 20 seconds less than 2 minutes. Thank you. Team 11, Oishi Roy, please begin.
Good morning, respected judges and all my fellow mates present out here. So I am Oishi Roy. I am one of the 1.2 billion people over 186 countries who has been out, the children, I believe, who has been out of the classroom lately. They are not attending classes. Back then, I remember I would just like to trace back to 2020, 24th March, when India was announced. I mean, I would like to say that it was rewarded with this particular lockdown. So suddenly, online classes began. We were absolutely not introduced to it. I mean, what are online classes? How are we going to get used to it? But then at the same time, I remembered that somebody said that you must be shapeless, formless like water. I was stunned how to be that. But then as things began, I realized, since I'm a bit logical, I realized that yes, there are some advantages to it and that we should start taking to it. Why? Because we need to adapt. Because we are human beings, we have to move on. So followingly, I would like to register my views because I'm speaking for the motion of this topic. The very first thing being that it is evident that in a virtual mode, I believe that it has allowed greater interaction and more feedback from the tutors and the students' part. Elongating a few more minutes to clear the doubts and discussions at length, according to me, has helped me have emerged helpful because I am myself a part of it. Like when I used to watching videos, lectures in YouTube, I found that YouTube is definitely a plethora of resources, and that the accessibility that the online schooling enables one to study or teach from anywhere, and that it enables the teachers and students to set up a schedule according to everyone's agenda. It has also helped us to do the time management skills. Hence, it is quite evident that with the technology developing faster by leaps and bounds and life gaining up in a faster pace, I strongly believe that it's time that online schooling replaces the conventional schooling and carves out a better way for future. For I believe that the online notifications for homework say that yes, I am left to be done. You need to be serious. Thank you.
Thank you, Oishi. Team 11, speaking against the motion, Aryama Ghosh. Aryama Ghosh.
Begin, ma'am.
Aryama Ghosh.
Am I visible?
Yes, you are visible. Aryama. Visible and audible, please begin.
Good morning, respected judges and all my worthy opponents. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to express my views against the motion, online education is the way of the future. A year ago, the COVID pandemic forced us to shut down all the schools and colleges and accept the online medium as an alternative mode of learning. I use the word alternative to suggest that online classes can never be a permanent replacement for offline ones because of countless inadequacies and flaws of the medium itself. The most obvious of which is the lack of social interaction and effective communication among the students. Online education has reduced learning to the mere act of sitting down and listening to lectures. Now, lectures are an important part of learning, no doubt about that, but interacting with classmates and exchanging ideas with them is an equally important part of it, if not more. The purpose of going to a school or a college is not just to read books or to write exams, it is to prepare the students for real world challenges of a society. But online education deprives the students of that much needed awareness. We should also think about the problem from a practical point of view. We know that there exists a huge technological divide in our country at present. There is enough research to suggest that a vast section of Indian students do not have proper access to the internet. It is easy for someone to sit in the comfort of his room and say, for someone privileged to sit in the comfort of his room and say that online education can become a way of the future. But for those students who do not have proper access to smartphones and internet, online education is perhaps the biggest problem after the pandemic itself. If online education were to become the way of the future, it would not be an inclusive future. That future will be reserved only for the entitled few of our country and the privileged students who have access to smartphones and electronic gadgets. No matter how many times platforms like Zoom and Google Meet update themselves and bring about new features to resemble like a physical classroom, they can never replicate the physical classroom, because offline classes allow us to have an in-depth understanding of each concept and give us ample amount of time to think critically about a particular topic. Whereas online education leaves very little scope for critical thinking. We should not look at education from a narrow utilitarian perspective and say that online classes are good because they save time, energy, and money. Education is too important for a society to be looked at in that narrow perspective. We should instead strive to create a more equal, a more inclusive education system where every student can experience the real joys of learning. And that is why I stand opposed to online education becoming the way of the future. That's all I've got to say on the matter. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Aryama. We now move on to team 12, speaking for the motion, Parijat Dhar.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking. Yes, Parijat, yes.
A very good morning to a respected chairperson, the honorable panel.
Ma'am, I think he is very blurred. I don't know if it is only me, but his face is extremely blurred.
To me, I can see him clearly. I can see
I
him.
can also not see him clearly. His face is all in a blur.
Yeah.
Because of the virtual background and.
Maybe.
Now it's better. Now it's better. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I cannot see
Thank you.
him. I cannot see him. Parijat, I cannot see you.
Maybe he can adjust the distance of the device.
Yes, Parijat. Yes. Parijat, I can see you. I can see playing hide and seek. Sorry, Parijat. Please begin. You're perfectly visible and audible.
Thank you. A very good morning to a respected chairperson, the honorable judges, my worthy opponents, and my loving audience. Today's topic is online schooling is the best way to the future, and I firmly support the motion. The concept of traditional learning has changed drastically in the past year. Within a year, we saw the COVID-19 pandemic building walls in front of the future of our children. But the education system successfully drilled through the world. We were introduced to online learning sector. The education was no longer confined around between the four walls of the classroom. Students had an access to the vast internet where they could successfully utilize all the study materials available there. Even teachers could even enhance their ability to reach out the students by a drastic measure. The online education is more flexible and student friendly. Online education means, as mentioned, is not confined within the boundaries, within the geographical boundaries of a country. A student from India could easily reach to a teacher sitting in the US. It enables both the students and the teacher to access study materials and hold classes from anywhere around the world. It also is student friendly because it teaches students time management and also helpful to students who are introvert and doesn't raise their and are not enough confident to raise their hands when they have a doubt. They now they absorb the lessons in a much better way because they are now free from the peer pressure. It provides a big audience, means the teacher could teach a huge number of students, which was not possible in a classroom where he could barely fit 100 in a class. The online learning is personalized. It's the traveling. It is also cost effective. Traveling cost and even why I'm telling about traveling cost. Even schools that have to pay huge electricity bills, and then the pool car bills are also saved in a much extent. So it has been very much cost effective. So from my viewpoint, the online education is the best. The online education is the best for and thus I conclude that the COVID pandemic is a sign that we should formally switch from classroom oriented learning to a online oriented learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Parijat. You exceeded by 21 seconds. This is for the judges. Team 12 speaking against the motion is Aryan Kundu. Team 12 speaking against the motion is Aryan Kundu.
Ma'am, am I visible and audible?
Yes, yes, perfectly. Please begin.
Okay, ma'am. A very good morning to respected chairperson, honorable guests, members of the jury, my most worthy opponents, and a loving audience. Today's topic is that online education is the way of the future, and I oppose this motion. Last year, our world was plunged into a crisis when the COVID-19 virus, which had originated in China, started spreading to other countries, turning it into a pandemic. While we mourn for those who have left us for a better place, we adapted certain measures so that we could continue our jobs and activities the way they were before the pandemic from the safety of our homes. One of the measures taken was the implementation of online education. This, however, was only a disaster measure. To continue this beyond the pandemic would be a disaster in itself. As famous education theorist John Dewey noted, education occurs due to interaction between knowledgeable others. It is very difficult to emulate this interaction in an online environment. As studies have shown, more than 70% of students tend to procrastinate during online classes. This makes it very difficult to interact during online classes. Moreover, it is impossible to conduct practical classes online, which are very necessary if one aspires to be in a technical field like engineering. Also, online education is as of yet widely unaffordable to most people. It is in these poverty-stricken areas where the need of education is urgent and is there. Online education misses out. Even those who can afford it tend to face problems like how today many of us could not install a virtual background beyond us. It is not the first time disaster measures have been taken during a disaster for the education system. When the Cold War was in full swing, students used to be taught how to handle a situation if a nuclear war suddenly broke out and their city was bombed. Clearly, it is not needed now. Thus, in conclusion, online education will not be continued after the pandemic, and nothing will ever replace our old classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Aryan. Our next team is Team 13, speaking for the motion, Joydeep Sharkar. Joydeep
Good
Sharkar.
morning, ma'am. Am I
Good
visible and
morning.
audible?
Yes, perfectly. Please begin.
Thank you. Some say that wisdom comes with age, while others insist that it comes from learning. Nowadays, thanks to the internet, learning is open to all. Hence, people in the countries where traditional learning is facing serious obstacles can take advantage of online courses. So far, e-learning has been effective to the people who understood its value. Good morning, respected judges digitally present in the meet. Allow me to speak for the motion. Online schooling is the way of the future. Learning online has countless advantages which are contributing to people and choosing it over traditional schooling. Being able to learn online provides you with the freedom to learn wherever you are. Isn't it more convenient for people? Because you don't have to sacrifice a large chunk of your day to commute or be stuck in traffic to attend your class. Online learning means that you can learn from comfortably of your own home. The lectures can be recorded and rewind and watched multiple times, often help students comfortably understand the content on their own. Once again, thanks to the innovative user interfaces offered by various online classes. One can type notes by listening to the lecture on the online portal. This way, the student can come back to the digital copy for reference and recollect any doubts they might still have. Having a digital copy of your notes saves you the risk of losing handwritten notes at exam time. With the data internet by your side, what is stopping you to access sites and ebooks? Not having the pressure of being surrounded by peers can often help people to absorb information better. Particularly introverts often thrive in solitude. Online schooling saves logistical and transport costs and time. Every major institution, from banks to markets, are moving online. Then what is stopping schooling? According to the most recent survey from Babson Survey Research Group, over 30% of higher education students in the United States are taking at least one distance course. So online education is a sensible choice, whether you're a teenager or an adult. As a student, this can be a useful measure of learning. So I firmly think online schooling is the way of future.
Thank you, Joydeep. We now move on to Roshni Agarwal, who will speak against the motion. Team 13, against the motion, Roshni Agarwal.
Hello, hello. Ma'am, you are not audible and your video is frozen. Please try to rejoin. A very good morning to the honorable members of the chair and my worthy opponents. Speaking before you is Roshni Agarwal, who is firmly against the fact that online schooling is the way of the future. Coming to what I had started with, connectivity issues are an everyday problem. A lot of time is wasted in this, and often students miss a lot when audio and video connections are not established properly. Secondly, many suburban and rural areas do not have the infrastructure like cell phone towers and seamless internet connectivity to facilitate the online mode. Many parents cannot afford smartphones for their children. So practically, education has come to a standstill for many for the last 1.5 years. Just to substantiate what I said, on 19th August 2021, India Today published, I quote, a 13-year-old Orissa tribal boy's search for better mobile network connectivity to attend online classes proved fatal after he slipped on a hillock and suffered grievous injuries, unquote. Are we still debating, my worthy opponents, after losing a friend? My next argument stands that schools provide opportunities for sports and other group activities which are very essential for all-round development. But these are completely on hold in the online system. However, Zoom PT classes are quite entertaining as the only asana we learn is Savasana. Online classes are unsuitable for primary school students since it is very difficult to keep the little children glued to their seats for a long time. It is equally unsuitable for the senior students since they miss practical and laboratory experience. Trust me, judges, I still don't know how to read the voltmeter. Preliminary findings from a survey by Child Fund India across 10 states showed that 78% of children were feeling sad and 8% were feeling anxious because they were not able to meet friends and teachers, access or and understand online learning sessions, and because they were missing active face-to-face learning. India's National Education Policy 2020 also stressed the importance of socio-emotional learning for the holistic development of children. Closing school mortgages our future for unclear benefits to our present. We must prioritize better. Online schooling is always an option, not the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Roshni. We next move on to team 14. Speaking for the motion, Priyanka Nandi. Speaking for the motion, Priyanka Nandi.
Ma'am, I'm audible and
yes. Please begin.
Thank you. I'm beginning. Have you ever given a thought that in the age of multimedia and vast technological advancement, we, the human beings, being the pioneers of everything we have created, will be cherishing motion when we have the opportunity of cherishing emotion? Well, good morning to one and all present over here. I'm Priyanka Nandi and I stand firmly for the topic that is online education is the way of the future. Every person runs for ease and comfort. At some point, it completely emphasized the modern Bible world. With the discovery of internet and modern technological and advancement of technological environment, somewhere every person had this futuristic idea that uh, online education must be executed in every field. So this, in the light of corona pandemic, it has taken a vast progress. Here are a few points which I want to state and which clearly explores or describes why and how this online education must be the way of the future. So the first point, we must realize the fact that we're in a loop of corona pandemic. That is, we never know when the third wave is going to hit us, or is there any fourth wave or fifth wave waiting for us. So we the students can barely foresee any methods of traditional teaching, and hence the only option left with us is online education. Thus, being a student, I must say that we must accept that online education with graceful attitude. Now, this online education has variety of advantages. To mention a few are, first point, it provides a vast platform. To specify it provides us quality along with quantity. That is, it gives us very beautiful materials along with numerous amount. Now, in contrast to traditional teaching, where a particular student is provided with a particular teacher for a particular topic, here this non-education, it gives the students an opportunity to choose, and hence it provides the students with variety platform. The students can dive into any topic and learn whatever they want to know from that topic. And that, now it is user friendly. That is it provides student pace and it with comfort and immense. It provides a student pace and with comfort and immense happy living environment. Student can achieve immense success. It also, online education gives an opportunity to the students to walk along with this advancement in technology. That is, in the age of test tube baby and modern robotic culture, we can't just depend on primitive measures, right? So before this corona pandemic, we never thought we can meet virtually, but here we are in this virtual debate competition. To conclude my statement, I must say that with that we have accepted the fact that we are going on advancing. Hence, we must not go against any topic. Rather, we must give a positive and be a very firm positive attitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. You've exceeded only by 12 seconds. Our next speaker speaking against the motion is Puradhi Roy Burman, Team 14. Puradhi Roy Burman.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, please begin.
Online education is not just imparting knowledge to children, it should provide holistic development. A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is Puradhi Roy Burman, and today I'm going to speak against the motion, online schooling is the way of the future. Now, when I said the word online, when I said the word holistic development, many of us could relate that we are not getting access to all the aspects of this holistic development. Now, online classes is just a temporary solution to the pandemic which we are facing. Once the vaccines are done, we have to go back to the normalcy which we were in. And I can tell that many of us like the normalcy which we were in. Obviously, we could meet our friends at school, we could meet our teachers, and who would not like it, obviously. Now, when we tell the word, suppose online schooling, online education, online classes, the first thing which hits our mind is the availability of electricity and internet. As said by many of the worthy competitors, our country does not have access to all these. I strongly agree with each one of them that yes, our country does not have access to these two. Plus, also, many of the students are below the poverty line and they don't have access to proper devices from which they can attend online classes. Now, if we think of improvising the situation in which we are in, like we can increase the internet speed, like 5G is going to come, but are we thinking that it is harming our ecosystem? Yes, it is harming our environment, and it is very important for us to protect our environment for our future generation and obviously for us to live in. Now, during this pandemic, many of the students must have probably have lost their parents, lost their beloved ones. And during this time, you can't expect every student to give their best. Whereas in traditional teaching method, we had our teachers and peers who were there to guide us and create a morale for us. One of the most important things which students have lost is punctuality. Yes, many of us must be lying on our bed and giving our attendance, and then probably we are lying on our beds and doing online classes, and it is affecting our future. There are so many distractions at home, I can assure you, like parents, then siblings, then we can't forget our pets. Yes, we love our pets with all our hearts, and they are one of the biggest distractions during our online classes. Now, we can't learn from peers during our online classes, which is such a drawback, at least for me, and I can assure you many of us, because the way our friends teach us is so important for us, because they know how we will understand the concept. They teach us, and it is a social really important for us. And hence here I rest my case that online education is a really big drawback for us and many people around the world. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Puradhi. Exceeded by 17 seconds. Thank you. We now move on to team 15. Speaking for the motion, Pushpita Naha. Pushpita Naha.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, perfectly. Please begin.
Okay. Few years back, if you were asked to sit at your home and study online, would you have chosen it or laugh it off? Thanks to the positive side of our pandemic, being physically present in a classroom is not the only option now. Good morning to the Honorable Chair, my worthy opponents, and the virtual audience. Today, I, Pushpita Naha, am going to hold my points for the topic, online schooling is the way of the future. Studying online teaches us vital time management skills, making a good balance in our life. It provides flexibility to everyone to study as per our convenience. To keep in pace with this rapidly developing world, we all try to learn various skills and subjects. What if you want to learn music from some reputed institution from the comfort of your home? That's possible. Online schooling. It is a great option to get a degree or a certificate without physically setting foot on the institution. Virtual classroom is available to us anytime and anywhere if there is an internet connection. Nowadays, who don't have an internet connection? It saves money, cost effective, which can be spent on other priorities. Online schooling is replacing the traditional system of education due to its customized learning experience. Student-teacher interaction is facilitated and lectures are made more interesting by online formats, videos, and photos. Thus, online schooling is also an effective way to manage peer pressure. In the comfortable surroundings of our home, students can easily cope with the fear and the shyness regarding their interaction and the discussions. They can learn at their own pace and is thus less stressful. Thus, we are now entering a completely different version of education, the evolution of the conventional classroom to the online education. Yes, online schooling is the way of future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pushpita Naha. Now we move on to Asha Jha speaking against the motion. Team 15, Asha Jha.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible and visible?
Perfectly. Please begin.
Education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. Good morning, Honorable Chair. Today, I, Asha Jha, will be speaking against the motion, and the topic for today's debate is online schooling is the way of the future. Technology advocates may see online learning as the best path forward, but I vociferously disagree with the same. The introduction of technology to education is both useful and necessary. Yet, the advent of online education in its present form, classes being held on digital platform, lectures being pre-recorded and uploaded ahead of time, no face-to-face interaction is not the future of education. Unlike the common belief or assumption, I still somehow feel this entire school of thought around online literacy is a bubble that might in the coming years revolutionizing the educational sector once again. Well, let me share why I think e-learning is not the way forward. Inclusivity and connectivity are hostile to online education. While it is imperative to bridge the digital divide, a step forward online education is likely to dismantle the learning process. Using too much computers can make the students give rise to plagiarism, and this in turn can lead to a copy-pasting behavior and less use of their brains. According to Tal Frankfurt, a technology consultant proposed that the emergency replacement of traditional classrooms with the virtual ones should be viewed as a sort of bypass for the usual snail space for educational change. Taking online classes also means that distraction of web are right before their eyes, and this is the major benefit in class learning that the classroom leaves out distraction. Online education is limited when it comes back to feedback. E-learning can cause a lot of isolation among the students, which they do not get to interact with their peers. I also feel that teachers are unable to give individual attention to all the students which they used to give in classroom learning. Lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that right to education is a fundamental right as enshrined in our Indian Constitution. But this global outbreak of coronavirus has introduced a new horizon of digital learning, and this in turn gave rise to digital inequality. India should develop more powerful and creative methods and ensure sustainable access to e-learning because we should always keep in mind that youths are the pillars of our country. So it is advisable to strengthen the education to sector fight back this pandemic situation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Asha. We now move on to team 16. Speaking
Wish a
for
very
the
good morning.
motion, Sania Sultana.
I wish a very good morning to the chairperson, the jury, and all the members.
Sania Sultana, I cannot see you.
Choose to stand in absolute opposition to the proposition put forth.
Sania Sultana, team 16. I cannot see you.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, perfectly. Please begin.
May I start?
I would request
Good morning.
everyone to mute yourself. That is all. Please begin.
Good morning, respected teachers, jury members, and my opponents. I am Sania Sultana, and I stand strongly for the motion that online schooling is the way of the future. In dark and difficult times such as these, when the world is crippled by a pandemic, online education has single-handedly prevented the education of millions and millions of students from coming to a standstill. Though it is true that online education does not cater to all the sections of the society, the government is taking pains to provide the economically backward students by giving them tablets and other such facilities which might help them in their online studies. I think it is extremely ungrateful of us to complain of not getting practical classes, of not getting stable internet connection when people are dying, people have nothing to eat. We should be instead be thankful and grateful to our teachers for trying so hard and online education for giving us whatever bit of knowledge we are getting. I believe anything is better than nothing. Even apart from this whole pandemic situation, online education has numerous other benefits. Online education provides us with geographical flexibility. Online education provides us with better learning environment. in the safety and comfort of our home, we can connect to our teachers who are miles apart from us. It also has changed our whole concept and idea of what we consider as schooling. It has opened a new door full of exciting surprises to a world of virtual learning. Thus, to conclude, I would like to say that instead of sitting in our comfortable couches complaining of the less exciting aspects of online schooling, we should be thankful and give credit to online schooling because it's seriously due. Thank you.
Thank you, Sania. Moving on to Abhipsha Das, Team 16, speaking against the motion. Abhipsha Das.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Thank
Please
you.
begin.
We have been part of a digital revolution. We have been witness to how schooling has shifted from colorful, flourishing institutions to melancholically bland screens, and has been struck by the immense internet, which, albeit has its advantages, has become somewhat of a substitution to the formal way of education rather than its intended purpose of being a supplement, which is quite formidable in the future. On this note, my respected and honored judges, I, Abhipsha Das, shall be speaking against the proposed motion, online schooling is the way of the future. To begin with the most obvious, extended periods of screen time, not only during the class, but the time that the students spend staring at the digital devices for their leisure later, becomes a highly effective source of optical problems and other health-related issues. More of the most important part of schooling, which is the proper verbal and physical interaction that students go through, is something that online education just cannot provide, hence rendering the students into the sense of isolation without interaction with their fellow peers and their teachers. There is this persistent sense of being all alone. We are, of course, no stranger to the technical and connectivity issues proposed by this online education, considering that proper devices are not equally distributed along the financial spectrum of the students. It is estimated that about 25% of Indian households have internet facilities. For the rural households, that number drops down to only 15%. The most affected, of course, all the time will be the marginalized, the poor, and the rural populations. With the expanse of the internet comes the providence of freedom, which is way more than necessary. Hence, we face an inability of being to focus on one thing for extended periods of time without being distracted. Students that are loved come to the school to learn. Students that are not loved come to the school to be loved. Without an instructor to constantly hold us around and move us forward, without a constant source of motivation and criticism, procrastination becomes inevitable. Online education does have its demands, and one is required to be an active learner, which is not possible for many. If one does not become an active learner and does not take sole responsibility for the academics, which should be more than effective, the chances of messing up increases. Other than that, with the immense amount of information and advanced amount of opportunities provided by the internet, students become more addicted to online forms of entertainment like online gaming and social media. The formation points are only a pint in the sea of problems that are put forth by the immensely dangerous worlds of the internet. That being said, I would like to conclude with what Sebastian said. Online education that puts behind almost everyone else other than the highly educated students, to me, can't be a viable form of education. Thank you.
Thank you. Abhipsha, you surpassed by 12 seconds. Thank you. Team 17. Now speaking for the motion, Sanjana Sen. Team 17 speaking for the motion, Sanjana Sen.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible and visible?
Yes. Please begin.
So to begin, ever since online education emerged as an institution, substituting the traditional and tangible idea of studying in a classroom, There has been a plenty of discourse regarding its virtues and its drawbacks. Time, accessibility, the digital divide, and learning loss, etc., usually lay the foundation for any such discourse. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sanjana Sen, and today I will be shedding light on my stance in favor of the motion that reads, online education is the way of the future. So, let us first address the issue of accessibility and cost effectiveness. The opposition would most likely argue that accessibility is compromised in the case of an online education. However, this claim can be deemed absolutely invalid as it has been globally observed that remote learning substantially reduced the cost of the same course or program that a student would be paying much more for in the case of an on-campus studying atmosphere. This is due to the massive reduction in operational as well as commute costs in the absence of a campus visiting student population. This monetary relief itself is what boosts accessibility and enables an armada of students to enroll for an academic course or program that they might not have been able to afford otherwise. It also saves the cost of tangible study material, which is now available online, either gratis or accompanied by hefty discounts. Hence, the pre-existing disparity in the education sector is considerably bridged. The second, and one of the most important concerns, is learning loss. Most arguments say that learning loss has been heightened by the virtual education system. This concept only narrows down the focus on ill-developed systems of remote learning while blatantly ignoring the potential for a flexible learning experience that a well-developed virtual system might offer. It would be ignorant to assume that every student has the same learning pace or learning capacity. In a standard 50-minute class of a population of 50 students, if the teacher or professor was to entertain one question from every student, there would be no lecture. On the contrary, a virtual learning atmosphere or pre-recorded lectures allow students to learn at a pace that is feasible for them and also comfortable for them. They can replay a lecture, rewind a section that might be difficult for them, and ask their professors within their and their professors or faculty stipulated time. To seal my end of the discourse, I would like to emphasize that we can only imagine a way forward if we exploit the gift of neuroplasticity well and open our minds to innovation instead of restricting our capabilities to mere tradition in any given context. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjana. You exceeded by 27 seconds. Speaking against the motion, Devam Sarkar. Devam?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfectly visible and audible. Please begin.
Yeah. Good morning to one and all present here. This is Devam Sarkar, and I would be representing the opposition for the motion at hand today. At the very outset, I want to point out something that the proposition has failed to understand. That we are not here to debate whether online education is better than offline schooling. We are here to debate whether it can replace offline schooling as a whole. With that being said, I think it's imperative to stress on the fact that the word schooling is not just limited to education. It refers to a practical experience that together contributes to the all-round development of a student. I think this is what online schooling primarily fails to deliver. I remember Dr. Shashi Tharoor telling this in one of his speeches that what students actually need from schooling is not a well-filled mind, but a well-formed mind. Getting up every day at the same time and going to school, raising your hand in a class full of 40 students, interacting with other students in a group assignment. These are all part of a discipline which together contribute to the development of an individual as a student, and is certainly something which online education cannot replace. The challenge of online education is not just limited to the students themselves. Even the teaching side of the spectrum gets compromised. Teachers may not be well versed with operating the necessary applications, creating digital content, and effectively conveying it online. Now, my next constructives talks about how it is not just the student-teacher interaction that gets compromised, but also the student-student interaction that is absent in online schooling. Now, it was only last week that I realized that most of the academic year is gone and I do not even know half of the students in my class. This absence of student-to-student interaction takes a huge toll in developing the essential skills of cooperation, socialization, and healthy competition. Another important facet that I want to address today is the challenge that online schooling poses when we look at education age category wise. Now, the junior category, which basically comprises of students from nursery to upper KG, have been observed to have a very low attention span, according to a research conducted by the Oxford University in 2012. And for them, online education would be nothing short of a disaster. What is going to ensure that they're actually listening to the online class and not playing games in the background? And for the senior category, comprising of students from 9 to 12, the practical knowledge takes the toll. The education curriculum includes a lot of practical subjects like science, sociology, physical education, etc. So with online education, where does the laboratory classes go? What happens to the geography surveys? How will the physical education students give their practicals? These are questions online education can never answer. So I would like to conclude my statement by stressing that just as everything in this universe requires a balance, even education sector would work best if there is a balance between the two. Offline schooling with necessary digitalized resources is probably our best shot. With that, I rest my case, but certainly not my stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Devam. Now we move on to team 18. Now, Sarjika Sandhaki, I had received the message that she's facing technical issues. So I would like to request the judges, if she's not there, then we can move on to the next participant and come back to her. Team 18, Sarjika Sandhaki, are you there? Judges, may I move on to Pritha Panda, who is speaking against the motion, Team 18, without wasting any time then. Do I have your permission?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Team 18, since Sarjika Sandhaki, who was supposed to speak for the motion, is facing technical issues, we are moving on to Pritha Panda, Team 18, speaking against the motion. Pritha? Pritha, we cannot see you. Pritha Panda? If you are facing any problem, then I can move on to team 19 and we can come back to team 18 at the last. So Pritha Panda, I cannot see you. So let us move on to team 19 since Sarjika and Pritha, both of them are not there. So team 19 speaking for the motion, Sharanya Shaha. Sharanya Shaha.
Ma'am, am I visible?
Sharanya Shaha, yes, absolutely visible. Please begin.
Good morning to one and all present over here. I am Sharanya Shaha from Team 19, going to speak for the motion that online schooling is one of the best way for future. Online schooling is all about its flexibility. It also helps us to save a lot of time, and it saves us from wasting a huge time in wasting the traffic jams while going to tuitions and schools. And in this way, it also helps us to save a money. And it enables us to easily study from sitting at our home or any other place, as it's very properly accessible. It helps us to learn at our own pace, taking all our time to clear a concept and then only moving to a next one. We are also able to see the recorded classes as many times as possible until we get a clear view, which is not available in the traditional way of learning. After that, students who are at higher education, they can do a course or even complete a degree along with the internship, thus giving a huge career advancement. And it's in the worldwide access to all of us. As from sitting in a small town, we can also get education from top teachers of another cities or even another countries. And most importantly, the last but not the least point is that it helps us to continue our education during any problems, may it be a natural calamities or any pandemic.
as we don't need to get out of our house. And the biggest proof we are getting it since the last year, when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out in the country and many other countries. If there was no online classes facilities, we would have put a full stop in our job, career, and studies because traditional way of offline classes came to a standstill since the pandemic began. Still now, we are dependent on the online education. So, I would like to conclude my speech by saying that talk to people, connect with them, try to make e-learning a connection between peoples and not robots. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharanya. We move on to Harsh Baid, who will speak against the topic. Team 19, Harsh Baid. Speaking.
Ma'am, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, please begin.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Honorable Speaker Madam, and everyone present, the jury members. We are talking about online classes as a future. Well, I can't predict the future. I'm not a future predictor, but the present isn't any satisfactory. Because there are a lot of problems with this entire mode of education, which I as a student can very well relate to. Where shall I start? Should I start by saying that only 48.20% of the entire world population owns a smartphone device? The number goes down to 25.3% when we talk about third world countries. Students find it more easier to procrastinate. There is no proper schedule of online classes, and there is no use denying how good teenagers and young adults are when it comes to time management. Coming to a more ethical point now. As Peter Singer said, human beings are social animals. We were social first and then we were humans. A major part of education is learning the art of socializing. And we are not talking about just literacy when it comes to education. Students as well as teachers are not quite technologically adapted to the growing times. Shifting the complete structure of education or even thinking about such a thing is a catastrophe. Recent reports suggest mobile devices are the prime distraction from studies. And you want a student to be completely involved in it? Online classes are monotonous. They are. You can't break the barrier as well, because there is this lack of direct communication. At times, there isn't even a physical individual whom we are talking. And the poverty, the data suggests that the poverty world clock has shown that 63% of the Indian population is extremely poor category. And where do you expect them to afford the costs? Let's come now to a more graver point. Students are mentally depressed. Part of which is because of the pandemic, of course, a lot because of the total isolation. There has been a prominent increase in the student suicide rates after 2019, which means after the pandemic as well as the online classes. Suicide rates in Kerala itself are quite alarming. The result is that the government of Kerala had to take the initiative of a teleconsultation facility for children who are facing stress. All being said, I'll quote one thing that Frank Bell said. The goal of education is understanding and the goal of training is performance. We go to the schools for understanding, for educating ourselves. What's the solution to this? The one that I can see is, it's a very simple and a rather tried one. Simply physical classes once the situation stabilizes. Get back to old times, which may have its cons, and as anything has its cons and its pros. But the cons are far less than the online holocaust the students face during online classes. Thank you everyone for bearing me for the time being.
Thank you, Harsh. Now, team 20, speaking for the motion will be Shinchita Manna. Shinchita?
Miss, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly audible and visible. Please begin. I hope you're not facing any network issues because I had received a message.
No, ma'am, it's okay.
Okay, thank you, Shinchita. Please carry on.
Good morning, members of the House and the jury. I am Sinchita Manna and I choose to stand in affirmation with the motion put forth before the House today. Today, our debate topic is online schooling is the way of the future, and I am for the motion. What is online schooling? Online schooling is a revolutionist way of education, for it is flexible and offers a variety choices of courses which one can prefer to study at any point of time from anywhere in the world. Now, according to a statistical survey by The Hindu, the content is delivered in an amalgamation of text, audio, graphics, and videos for easy accessibility and understanding. Like in science subjects, there are many complicated concepts, and myself being a science student, this online mode of education has helped me in understanding those concepts better because I am able to visualize those concepts. Now, moving to the next point, online schooling helps us to understand the technology from a very small age, which turns out to be beneficial in the future because technology is advancing day to day. Like here, we can see many juniors are teaching their seniors how to use this technique, how to use this Zoom app, how to use Google Meet. And we know learning does not have any age. And not only about science subjects or history, geography, but many arts and crafts also we are able to learn from this online platform. Now, in an online environment, as observed by the open access government, there are less chances of bullying of students by their fellow classmates. Also, there is a greater chance of student exchange programs where which improves personality and skill set development between schools at both domestic and international level. Also, due to online classes, our traveling time has reduced, for which we are getting extra time in between which we can perform things of our choice. Last, but the most important point which I feel, at present, the pandemic situation has opened the luxury of online schooling to us. Despite being at home, we can easily attend our classes in virtual mode. And this is not only prevalent in cities and towns, but also in villages with tablets and mobile phones being provided by the government there. Like now I am here giving a speech in ASIS debate with in an online platform. Global warming is increasing day by day. With this, the scientists are expecting more microorganisms to be prevalent in the atmosphere, since microorganisms disperse more in the climate change. In that case, more pandemic and epidemics can occur in the future. In that case, online schooling is the best way for education in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Shinchita. Shravan De will be speaking against the motion Team 20. Shravan De. Shravan De. Shravan, are you there? Yes. But I cannot hear you. You are not audible. Shravan? You are not audible. I think you are facing a little technical problem. We'll give you a minute or two.
Am I audible now?
Yes, perfectly. Please begin.
Am I visible also, man?
Yes, yes.
Okay. May I start? I mean.
Yes, please begin.
Okay, ma'am. An interesting characteristic of human beings is that we can absorb things and get taken to it very easily. A very good morning to all the members of the House, the chairperson and the jury. In the House, the congregated, I, Shravan De, stand for against the motion of the proposition that was put forth before the House today. The first thing I must point out is a very common thing, which is the mental health of a student. In this online virtual world, a student is fixed to and glued to the screen. Imagine staying in a room and nothing beside you. You're in a class and doing something else. I mean, you're not controlled by anyone else. This is uncontrolled accessibility. Imagine a student what can do. A student has access to restricted content, social media, gaming, and every stuff that is not supposed to be done during an online class. And looking up to the future, cybercrime rate is supposed to increase by 250% according to the India Cybercrime Center. With this analysis, the depression, anxiety, procrastination, and other psychological effects that was put down upon the students in the last 1 year have proven that, and also by the child psychologists, that children must not stay long against to the devices for so long. We must look upon the fact that we must learn skills and not theoretical knowledge. Means for engineering, for medical stuff, for being a doctor, for nursing, and applications, we must learn them via offline mode. It must be very Hello. Sir.
No, we can hear you.
I'm sorry for the inconvenience. And we must care about that. A human being cannot monitor a student for so long, for 24 hours, and what he's doing. And we must necessarily put to the fact that unemployment of many school bus drivers, college bus drivers, and non-teaching staff is also a very important fact that we must put on. Now coming to the question, is military schooling not a schooling? We're including military schooling too. Discipline is a format in which we must learn ourselves. Military schooling cannot be done via online coaching or anything. Learning from home, and especially for a very small child who needs a warmth, love, interaction, not staying away from friends. It won't help him in the future. And we are talking about future in the topic. And I must put to the point that everyone cannot afford that much of internet package, as it was also told by other participants in this house. And with that, I'd like to represent that there must be also miscreants and criminals getting into the activities, and with more technology, the criminals are also becoming more developed. You see, it's very dangerous, and we must take a very wise decision. I end my views and opinions in this little oration. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun. Now we will move on to team 21. Speaking for the motion, Shopnonil Paul. Shopnonil Paul.
Good afternoon, ma'am. You can hear me?
Yes, you are audible and visible. Please begin.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, respected chairperson, judges, and my fellow opponents. I am Shopnonil Paul, going to speak for the motion that online schooling is a way to future. The concept of traditional education has changed radically within the last couple of years. Being physically present in the classroom isn't the only option anymore. Not with the rise of internet and new technologies at least. Nowadays, you have access to quality education wherever and whenever you want, as long as you can get online. We are now entering in a new era, the revolution of online education. The first good reason to appreciate online education is that it enables the teacher and the student to set their own learning pace. And there's the added flexibility of setting a schedule that fits everyone's agenda. As a result, using an online education platform allows for a better balance of work and study. So there's no need to give anything up. Studying online teaches you vital time management skills, which makes finding a good work-study balance easier. Having to common agenda between the student and the teacher can also prompt both parties to accept new responsibilities and have autonomy. Moreover, it offers a wide selection of programs. In a space as vast as wide as internet, there are infinite skills and subjects to teach and learn. A growing number of universities and higher education schools are offering online versions of their programs for various levels and disciplines. From music composition to quantum physics, there are options for every type of student. Studying your program online is also a great option for getting an official certificate, diploma, or degree without physically setting foot on the university campus. Moreover, it's accessible. Online education enables you to study or teach from anywhere in the world. This means there are no need to commute from one place to another or follow a rigid schedule. On the top of that, not only you have saved time, but also save money, which can be spent on other priorities. The virtual classroom is also available everywhere when there's an internet connection, and a good way to take advantage of this is to travel. For example, you are studying in abroad and want to get a job. Online education is a great choice. There's no reason to give up on the job, and you can study the degrees as well as in the same time. I would like to conclude my case by saying that there are only a few reasons. These are only a few reasons to choose an online education, and why 90% of students think that online learning is the same or better than a traditional classroom experience. Many of my worthy opponents had said that all offline classes are creating depressions among the students. But let me tell you that this online classes were introduced not to create all these havocs, but it was introduced to save our life. There's a quote in Hindi that says, "Jaan hai to jahan hai," which means that you have the life, you have the whole world. Our government or the schools introduced this online education so that the spread of COVID-19 pandemic could be reduced. Moreover, if we think more practically and scientifically, then the students are a better carrier of COVID-19 virus than the adults. So just think of a school opening and in a bench, 2 or 3 students sitting there without wearing a mask. This can spread the COVID to a high level extent. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shapnunil. Over to Ragesri Shaha, who will be speaking against the topic Team 21. Ragesri Shaha.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Perfectly, please begin.
Visible too?
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Technology is just a tool. In terms of getting the kids working together and motivating them, the teachers is the most important. This quote was once quoted by Bill Gates. A very good afternoon to respected chairperson, respected judges, and my worthy opponents. I, Rageshri Shahar, representing Team 21, strongly opposes the motion that online schooling is the way of the future. Though nowadays online classes have become mandatory due to the present pandemic situation, yet I would like to highlight some of the negative aspects of it. Firstly, I would like to speak about lack of face-to-face interaction. Online classes are proven to be highly effective at improving academic knowledge to the students. However, developing the communicational skills of the students is an area where online learning often fails. Due to the lack of face-to-face interaction and lack of communication skill between the student and student teachers, the students thus might find it difficult to work in an effective manner with a team setting. Secondly, I would like to draw your attention to the point which states lack of digital connectivity. In many countries, including India, there are remote places where internet connection are not available. Students belonging to these places are to come miles to the places where connectivity is up and running. Also, there are students who also couldn't afford buying computers and laptops due to poverty. This prevents them to access online education. For them, the only option is classroom learning. Thus, I would like to conclude my speech by saying that due to the present COVID-19 pandemic, we all are forced to opt for digital way of learning, but this can't be the future of learning. I do hope that the situation will get better one day and we all will again go to school for traditional way of classroom learning. This is all I had to say. Thank you for letting me voice out my concern. I rest my case.
Thank you, Ragesri. Now, before I move on to Team 22, I just received a message that Preetha Panda of Team 18 could rejoin, but Sarjika Sandhaki, speaking for the motion, has not been able to rejoin yet. So we will come back to Team 18 perhaps last. So Team 22, speaking for the motion, Tapashrita Chatterjee. Team 22, speaking for the motion, Tapashrita Chatterjee.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly. Please begin.
Okay, thank you. Well, Elliot Massey rightly said that we need to bring learning to the people instead of bringing people to the learning. Good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm Tapashrita Chatterjee, and today I'm here to speak strictly for the motion. Well, with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, we all had to shift from the offline mode of learning to the online mode of schooling. Now, I think by now we all have been encompassed with several kinds of online teaching platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, and Classroom. And of course, our schools and our teachers had to play a very huge role in setting up such an effective way of learning for all of us. I think that this mode of learning, the online schooling, is much beneficial not only for the students and the teachers, but also for the public in general. Well, I would like to highlight a few points. With the advent of the online schooling, we are able to attend our classes from whichever part of the world we want. The only thing we need is a device which supports such classes and a stable internet connection. If we dig on deeper, we find out that in this case, we are able to attend classes without commuting to our schools. which reduces the cost of transportation and also saves our energy. The online mode of schooling is also beneficial for students who suffer due to the lack of confidence and thrive in isolation in their respective schools and offline mode of classroom. They suffer from different kinds of mental pressure, and I think that the online mode of schooling is far more better for them, because in this way they get to voice their opinions and raise questions in the particular classes. Now, the online mode of schooling is also very beneficial for the environment, because a survey conducted last year has proved that due to switching over to the online classes, there has been a decrease in about 75% of the carbon dioxide emission by the students. So now I would like to conclude my speech by saying that, knowing that offline classes could not be conducted in this crucial times of the pandemic, we have to switch to the online mode of classes. And as we know, the future is digital. With the advancement of technology every day and the updation in our devices, we have learned that how we can cope up with the situation, and the only aid that we get is the online mode of learning. I would like to end my speech here. Thank you. Have a pleasant day ahead.
Thank you, Tapushrita. Now we move on to Khushi Singhania of Team 22, who will speak against the motion. Khushi Singhania.
Yes, ma'am. Am I clearly audible and visible?
Yes, perfectly audible.
Thank you. Thank
Please
you. May I begin? Yes, thank you.
Yes,
ma'am.
please begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Khushi Singhania and I'm expressing my views against the motion in discussion today. So let us look at the motion in two parts: online schooling and way of the future. When we hear the first two terms, online schooling, the first thing that comes to my mind is network issues. But when I think of the next few words, what I think of is a life back to normalcy. Maybe not as soon as we want it to be, but soon enough, I see. And when we speak of the future, it's not tomorrow or the day after that's in question. It's the coming decades and the decades after it. And when we speak of the world and its changing ways, we must remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes years to change conventional ways of life. When we talk of future, we do so in terms of holistic development of one and all, and not selective development of the few. As previously pointed out, we are aware that a large number of people in India do not have access to education, let alone online education. What comes to our rescue is traditional methods of learning that are affordable in our economy. Not to forget that physical mode of learning is the only suitable and efficient way of learning for students who are blind and deaf or mute. What must also be taken into account is the fact that online schooling is but a virtual reality. It does not give one the experience of togetherness and time-place unity. To recall the points raised by my worthy opponent speaking for the motion, it gives a subjective pace of learning and the opportunity to learn anywhere across the globe. Now, I strongly contradict that by saying that the very reason a system was established in society was to bring about similarity and order and to avoid anarchy. And the fact that when we dream about going to world-class universities, it is not just because of its name. It's because of the culture the place provides. It's because of the facilities and infrastructure it beholds. Education is not all textbooks. It is real time. It's heard and seen. It's felt and experienced. As mentioned by another worthy opponent previously, man has always sought to have better life. But today I question that do the pros of a completely virtual education really outweighs its cons, some of which have been mentioned previously. What we need to understand is that future is not so black and white anymore. There's a lot of gray in between. What we seem to be moving towards is a hybrid model of education, one with online and offline learning. We need to make our people proficient in technology and not dependent on it. To say that schooling is the only way of future is to put out an advertisement even before gathering the capital or the methods to produce what you are actually advertising. What was started as a stopgap arrangement can never be the only road to a successful future, because this road has but too many potholes. And the road of conventional learning is one that has been long traveled. And thus, online learning can only be a supplement to classroom learning, not a substitute, a mere facet to the future of education and not the soul and body of it. With this, I rest my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Khushi. Now we move on to Team 23. Speaking for the motion, Sanskriti Mishra. Speaking for the motion, Team 23. Sanskriti Mishra.
A very good afternoon to my respected judges and my worthy opponents. This is Ashwita Mishra and currently I'm in class 10. I am firmly stand for the statement that online schooling is a way of teaching. In this pandemic time, the traditional education has rapidly changed within a couple of years. Being physically present in the classroom is not only the mode of learning. We have entered a new era of education and we are processing through it very effectively. It is very efficient and it's very easy for us to connect from every nook and corner of the world. We can clarify our doubts. It's very efficient for the students because we can clarify our doubts very quickly. You don't have to wait for the whole day to go to the next day to the school and then ask our questions. We can ask it to the teachers within few minutes. Then country is to visit India. Our respected Prime Minister Modi has organized many programs and is trying to make India a digital India. And this online education has put a step forward to it. This online education and the awareness among the digital awareness among the people, the difference between the people living in the rural areas and the people living in the urban areas have been reduced. The literacy rates have also increased rapidly. Then we all want ourselves to be digitally active in our coming future. And the pandemic has forced us to shut all the schools and colleges around. The only way to learn and to carry on our daily work, we can look forward to the online study. The online study has helped the students in many ways. We can submit our assignments without being failed. There's no question of getting the assignment at home because we can submit it by just making a PDF. Then the pandemic has showed us that we must be ready for every kind of emergencies, and the online learning has not only saved us from the pandemic but also has continued our study, our education. For the students, we don't know for how long this pandemic is going to continue. The third wave is about to come, and we don't know whether there is a fourth or fifth wave. And we cannot stop our learning or the education for a long time. We cannot wait for the pandemic to stop. So I think, according to me, this format of learning is a way to our future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sanskriti. You've exceeded by 24 seconds. Team 23 speaking against the motion, Ronit Raut.
Everything's existence.
Ronit Raut, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Everything's existence in this world is agathogathological in itself. Just like that, online classes is also an curse in disguise. Hello. Good morning. A respectable chairman and all my stupendous worthy opponents. My name is Ronit Raut, and today I will be standing against the motion, online schooling is the way of the future. Online classes comes with a prone to technical issues and network issues for everyone. It's not possible to have a good and a smooth network connection for everyone, which leads to many problems and several problems like not able to catch up with the teacher, not able to understand the topic because lack of the social interaction decreases the children's interest towards studies and many more. Also, the people in the remote or village areas doesn't have access and technology as compared to the people in the urban areas, which lacks their children to grow and to grow towards education and also causes the downfall of the children's educational curriculum. In the second, online classes are also all students also develop an idea of procrastinations and self-isolation, because there is not a social interaction. So the people figure out, the teachers are unable to figure out what to do, and whether the students are able to catch up or not. And on the other hand, students are fed up that they are being able to understand the topic well, and not able to catch up with the topic, and not able to express themselves properly. That's why many people actually end up in procrastinating themselves, by not attending regular classes, by not doing their homeworks, and many other. In the end, in this era, everything works on money. Money is everything, and everything is money. Money is everything, and everything is money. So because of that, to begin with only, the expenses of the network and the devices are only itself is a big burden on the families who doesn't come from a strong financial background. And in the second, there are many other expenses like courses, admission. Because of that, many people on doesn't able to cope up with the expenses of the school, and then they are forced to leave their children's education. I'm only telling that education is okay, online schooling is okay, but just it's not the way of the school of the future, because it's a curse also. Because we cannot hide the bad points of this education. So online education has several advantages, but also it has many disadvantages compared to it. Also, because of the here, I would like to adhere my case, but not my stance. And also the thing is that education is a curse, and is a curse. It's always said that everything is a boon and a bane. Yeah, online schooling also has a boon and a bane, just like that only. So I would like to request that online education is not a very effective idea towards the future, because it's not going to lead us anywhere. Yeah, it's okay that pandemic is going on, but still it's not very effective the way if we see it.
Thank you, Ronit.
Thank you, ma'am.
You have exceeded by 29 seconds. We come to team 24, which is supposed to be the last team, and then we go back to team 18. Team 24, speaking for the motion, Rahul Mishra. Rahul
Am I
Mishra.
audible?
Yes, perfectly. Please begin.
Good afternoon, judges. My name is Rahul Kumar Mishra, and today I am going to speak for the notion online education is the way of future. Now, what is schooling? Schooling can be defined as a part of a child's life in which a child goes outside his house and learns educational and social education to live in this society. But with the corona pandemic coming in the year 2020, almost all offline educational sites turned itself into online educational sites because of the security reasons. But is online education really better than the offline education? Let us find out. According to a study by Washington Post, a really big and renowned media house in US, only 11% of parents in US consider offline education to be better than online education. Now, why is it so? There are many factors proving for the above data, but the two biggest and unnoticeable factors are online education permits a child living in one part of a country to study from any teacher in any other part of a country. For example, I, Rahul Mishra, myself, who lives in West Bengal, studies physics, chemistry, and mathematics from the teachers of Kota, Rajasthan. Now, trust me, this factor is really helpful for the students who live in an area where the availability of good teachers is not so well or which is not so updated. Now, second big reason supporting for the above data is that many big institutions follow the cycle of teacher change and batch change. Now, what is it? Now, this cycle refers that many good institutions put their good students in a batch where almost all good teachers of that institutions are provided. And as soon as the child becomes weaker in studies, he's removed from that batch. Now, this may seem easy for the institution, but it is not easy for the child who has developed his friends, who is adopted the surrounding, and who has developed a great, priceless connection with the teacher of his previous class to break at all. 68% of the schools in Delhi agreed to Times of India in the year 2020, in the year 2018, that generally This teacher change and batch change is due to a class can held at max 60 to 70 students, but the strength of a class emerging as a problem was totally removed by online education because a single online meeting can held as much as 600, 700 participants. Now, these were the big factors. There are also many minute factors, such as online education helps us manage time very properly. It also gives already handwritten notes and recorded lectures if we are absent for a class. Also, it is bringing a revolution which is helping decrease the fees of schools. Hence, I, Rahul Mishra, and the 68% population of US, according to Washington Post, stand for the notion online education is the new way of future. Thank you, judges.
Thank you, Rahul. We move on to Ella Chakraborty of Team 24, who will speak against the motion. Ella Chakraborty.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Perfectly. Please begin.
Education must not simply teach to work, but it also must teach life. Greetings to one and all present here. Greetings to the jury. This is Ella Chakraborty from Team 24 speaking against the motion. Now, I began my speech with a very famous quote by W.B. Boyce. Let me ask you, can you teach a child to walk in an online mode? Can we actually exist in an online mode where we actually post our fakeness and superfluous lives that are not real? Can the essentials of the world actually shift to online mode? I guess answer to most of these are no. Well, I acknowledge the fact that many aspects of our life can shift to online mode and have shifted, but something as essential as schooling should not be shifting to the online mode. Now, what is schooling? Schooling is that fact of the life which builds us as civilians living in the civilized society. And for this very purpose, it is offline and not online. Let us be very transparent in this committee. You cannot expect a 3-year-old studying in lower nursery or kindergarten to just sit in front of the screen and learn the alphabets and know how to speak and write. You cannot expect that. There has to be somebody next to that child to help him out, help him or her out. And with the growing pace of the world, our parents are working. Both of our parents are working, and you cannot expect the parents to be beside the child all the time. So online school again stands vain. I agree that children of our age who are more or less independent can somehow manage it through, but how many of us have actually been serious with studies for the past 1.5 years? That is very questionable again. Now let us consider the banking system. Like it is available both in the online as well as the offline mode. But does that mean that the offline mode will stop existing, like the note currency? It will not stop existing ever. Like no matter how many more Paytm and PhonePe comes up. Living in a country like India, where more than half of the population is devoid of internet connection, it is very superfluous to think that education can shift to online mode. If schooling basically builds our base, and if the base itself becomes unsteady, you cannot build an education as firm as the Burj Khalifa with an unsteady base where even the internet connection is not in your hands. Now, I'm not being narrow-minded here and stopping the development of our country, but schooling should be offline because we all need that push from a person who is next to you, an elder, that pushes you to get through it. Because even if the school turns online, you will need a tutor offline, and let's be very clear with that fact. So schooling offline, to conclude with, schooling online will basically hamper the future of our country, and we will be devoided. The children who are coming up, don't they deserve the right to study like us, to enjoy the childhood in the school ground? To conclude with that, thus I strongly oppose the motion that online schooling isn't the way for future.
Thank you, Ella. That was Team 24, Ella Chakraborty, who spoke against the motion. Now we come back to Team 18, Sarjika Sandhaki. Have you been able to join? Sarjika Sandhaki will be speaking for the motion. Team 18. Pritha Panda will be speaking against the motion. Sarjika Sandhaki, have you been able to join? Sarjika has not been able to join. In fact, she has not been able to join since morning. This is for the judges. We have Pritha Panda, who will be speaking against the motion in this debate. So judges, can we move on with Pritha Panda? Pritha, please carry on. Please begin.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
A very good afternoon to all the respected judges, organizers, and my friends. Today, I am Preetha Panda from T number 18 is going to say that online schooling is not the way of future making. First of all, I need to say that online schooling is not at all superior. It is offline schooling which is the superior for the learning of the children, for kids who are growing in this world. For a children of 3 to 4 years, he or she is just the newcomer of the society. So this technological devices, which is not only hampering the eyesight, but also causing a lot of stress to our mental, and it also causes a lot of headache. So how this could be the solution? A kid who will go means, as we say that the kids are the pillars of the country. So when he or she is just starting the life at the beginning, he is too much focused with this technological devices that affects his eyesight, that affects the hearing, that affects the headache problems. So I couldn't support this. And on the other side, I need to say that the effectiveness of the online classes are not at all superior. It's that the teachers who are all are being new to the technology. Some teachers, some students are also facing the problems. All of the citizens, we the students, we when we are able to face this type of online classes, everyone doesn't belong from a prolonged society. Everyone doesn't have that technological or the network is so means developed that they could be they could become better with this way of learning. There are many remote areas where there the people doesn't get the basic network connection to connect with these devices. On the other side, there are various brilliant students who are meritorious, who wants a bright future in their life. But because of this network issues, they couldn't access that. They couldn't get a better way of teaching. What for them? They will not be developed in the society. They will not restrain themselves in the society. So I need to say that this online classes are not being effective. This offline mode of learning is the best. It will prove us that it will give chance to everyone in the society and give us a better future. With this, I need to end my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Pritha. So judges, kindly note that this is team 18. Pritha Panda spoke against the topic. Sarjika Sandhaki was unable to join. So instead of 48 speakers, we had 47 speakers today. So with this, we come to an end to the debating round. A wise man had once justly said, "A tongue has no bones, but it is strong enough to create an impact and break a few hearts." So as the moderator and the chairperson for today, I do have a few things to say, but I'll make it very short. The debaters had put on or put across the arguments very well, supported by evidence, and they had done their research well, most of them. Some, of course, veered away from the topic, but most of them, they did their research very well. Some of them were very firm in their opinion. Some gave very dramatic speeches with a different perspective and compelling arguments. So there was, as in a debate, there was a segment or a group who vociferously defended the topic, "Online schooling is a way to the future." And the other section, they lustily oppose the topic, "Online schooling is not the way to the future." And very rightly, those who supported the topic, they said that there was once upon a time when there was open air school, and then we moved on to confined walls. And right now we have the enormous freedom of virtual schooling and virtual anonymity. Knowledge and skills cannot be restricted. So enjoy the flavors of learning, somebody said. And there was a student who said that he went to Bangalore to his uncle's house and he had no problem. So we did have these students supporting online schooling. And there was the other who opposed. Again, they were very rightfully who said that there are distractions, lack of space, motivation, human communication, many of them doing sabasana when classes are going on, and mortgaging of their future, which some sounded very upset and anxious about, and low attention span, and most of all, the thing that rang out is education is to be seen and heard and felt and not only to be learned. So I shall end over here, and I would now like to invite our panel of judges one by one. May I request Dr. Mrs. Rita Chatterjee to address the audience. Ma'am. Dr. Rita Chatterjee, may I request you to please share your thoughts with the debaters. Okay, maybe ma'am is facing a little technical problem. Ma'am, we cannot hear you.
Ma'am, if you could remove the headphones.
Yes, ma'am. We cannot hear you. Ma'am, I think you need to unmute yourself. Ma'am, we are still unable to hear. Can you hear me, ma'am? Can you hear me? Okay, but we cannot hear you. Maybe there is a technical glitch that you are facing, perhaps. Okay, ma'am, then we'll come back to you. I'll come to Judge 2. I'll come back to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you are inaudible. Yes, ma'am. No, we still cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you, ma'am. We'll come back to you. May I invite now Mrs. Uma Mohandas Poduwal to share her views and perspectives. Welcome, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. You're perfectly
First, good afternoon. Yeah. Very good afternoon to all of you. Dear Mr. Bagul and all of South City International School family. Thank you so much for this absolutely amazing opportunity to hear the young voices of today, their thoughts and clarity of concepts and logical arguments. Like Malvi ma'am said, there was so much passion in whatever they spoke. And it was so energizing to listen to all of the children. At this point, I want to thank Malvika ma'am for being such a wonderful moderator and keeping the flow of the debate going. And I didn't feel bored even for a second. I thought, how am I going to listen to 48 children, 47? And I never felt that, the disconnect at any point of time. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Also to Miss Akshita Paul Chaudhary. She was very strict with her timing. And even I used to kind of, sit up when the first bell rang. Okay, I better be ready for the points. So thank you so much, both Malvika ma'am as well as Akshita ma'am.
Thank you.
Rumi, a thinker, philosopher, once said, and I quote, "Raise your words, not your voice. It is the rain that grows flowers, not thunder." Today I heard the rain. I heard the rain in the voices of the children, and I heard they have thought so carefully about how their life is going to pan out in the future through such a simple topic, which is on the minds of every educator across the world. Even a small couple, a young couple who is putting their child in the first standard or in nursery school today is thinking, oh, what is the future of my child? And I can see among all the debaters, people who are going to become policymakers in their own state and in our country in the future, because they are so passionate about certain things that have been happening in education sector. I particularly want to talk about one very beautiful child. His name is Sharanya Chattopadhyay, who did not look anywhere. He had all the points in his mind and he spoke so well. And I want to personally congratulate him for the clarity of his thought and how well he was trying to convince us of his topic, which was against the motion. There was one more child who spoke, which I felt had spoken about something very important. Actually, brought up a point called hidden curriculum, which nobody speaks about in online classes, because there is a hidden curriculum that affects all the children and the teachers. Then there was one more child who I felt brought to the fore a very important point about this debate. And what was that? He said, the debaters have missed a point, and that is, we are not talking whether online education is better or worse. We are talking about whether it will replace offline education. And with that, he took off to such a wonderful argument, such a wonderful debate, that I was mesmerized by his practical voice and his practical suggestions. Thank you so much, so much, so much for this revelation of children's intellect and their conceptual understanding of what is happening in the world. Thank you once again, Mr. Bagul.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind and motivating words. And I'm sure your words are going to stand our participants in very good stead in future. Thank you, ma'am, once again. May I request our third judge, Ms. Deblina Mitra, to address the participants. Ms. Deblina Mitra, may I request you to...
Am I audible?
Absolutely, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It has been a wonderful session. And I must, at the very outset, thank Mr. Bagul that he has invited me to be a part of this enriching debate. As Uma Mohan Das just now said, it was fascinating the entire morning on a weekday to listen to such, bright minds, young boys and girls kind of throwing their ideas at each other, well researched, and there was lucidity, they were fluent, and they were very, very assertive. I would also like to kind of, before I just come to my views about the participants and what they said, thank Malavika, if you or I do not know who has chosen this topic, such a topical motion to debate on. I mean, it is in the air, like I as a parent or as a teacher or as an educator, what is to become of us post-COVID era? Either online school will be there or not. We can probably have go on having a debate which has no end maybe right now. So it was, thank you once again. And it was very well organized, very well organized. I must thank Akshita. We do all this time in the school. The buzzer went at the right time, and for everyone, there was no hiccups. And Mr. Principal, Mr. Bagul must be very happy with the team that he has. I mean, excellent work. Coming to the debate, there were speakers were, They were firm, they were assertive, they have done their research quite well, and in order to show their place their point of view very firmly, I found some of them very, very honest, saying what they did, they led the Savash, and also everything came out very open. In the process, they were all trying to kind of be assertive in their speeches. A little bit that I would kind of address the students and say, the topic was whether online schooling is the way of the future. So primarily, I've seen many speaking what they have faced till now, but whether in the future, post-COVID days, do you think this online teaching or online schooling would be there, or there would be a hybrid form? So that part could have been addressed too, not only what you are experiencing, but whether this is going to be integrated, an integral component of our education system in future is what I would have liked to hear. And another thing, more of rhetorical questions, and some of you could have taken a leaf from what others have said and referred to your speakers before you. Because there were no rebuttal rounds, you could have rebutted them in your speeches, maybe. So that would have, made it more interesting to hear. That's how, because you're debating, you're just not speaking. But other than these things that I wanted to add, it was a wonderful session. All the speakers spoke really well, and they were real. The war of words, I think, will go on this topic. Thank you once again, South City International, for inviting me.
Thank you, Ms. Mitra. You have indeed given us food for thought to ponder about what you have just said. It was a pleasure interacting with you. May I invite Dr. Mrs. Rita Chatterjee, who could not speak because of the technical glitch. Ma'am, would you like to address the audience? Dr. Rita Chatterjee, ma'am. I'm really sorry. Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you are not audible. You are not audible, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So now we have with us a little speech by Mr. Ranjan Bitter, a recorded speech by Mr. Ranjan Bitter, Principal, Future Foundation School, and Secretary of West Bengal and Northeast Association of Schools for the Indian School Certificate, ASISC. Thank you. Akshita, please play.
Warm thank you to all the participating students, their teachers and their schools for having come forward, stepped into this senior level inter-school debate competition organized by the Association of Schools for the Indian School Certificate at the zonal level. It's heartwarming to see this huge turnout. A great thank you to South City International School for having come forward, taking so much pain and effort to put together this year's debate competition. And we remember Dr. George Hess, who was instrumental in creating the Association of Schools for the Indian School Certificate, which now has 1,600 schools. But Dr. Hess was instrumental in giving birth to this association and nurturing it throughout its infancy. And again, thank you to all the participants. Thank you very much.
It is always a pleasure and very enlivening to listen to Mr. Mitter. And now I shall come to the conclusion of the event. So as all good things come to an end, we at South City International School would like to extend our gratitude to all our judges for their generosity, patience, and wholehearted support to our participants, principals and teachers of all the 24 schools who participated in the debate today. With this, I would like to sign off and bring the curtains down to this wonderfully energetic, stimulating, enriching round of the ASISC Regional Debate Competition. Thank you. You can all log out. Thank you.